under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll now take public.
Hi, I'm Betsy Moss. I live on Clove Road, and I wanted to, for the record, make sure that I mention that I had requested that we have a budget Q&A before the election, and I was turned down. So I thought that nobody wanted to do that. I guess the budget officer didn't want to, and Corinna Kelly, who wrote me, said no. So I thought I'd give you two questions about the budget now, so that maybe they can be answered by Ryan when he comes in. First one, I guess the concern here is that it would be really helpful to get to the bottom of this tonight. There he is. Hi, Ryan. It's two questions. One in 2016 it pertains to the budget, and one that 2017 that pertains to the budget. Both questions pertain to transferring funds without getting board permission, and we'd like to understand the circumstances around both of these transfers, and I think that Ryan's probably the guy. But Patty, you're the budget officer. You probably know the answers. There was a Freightliner truck that was ordered and came in ordered in 2015, and there had been a lease payments put in the budget for 2016. The truck arrived on January 14th of 2016. The voucher was signed. It didn't get paid for 2 months, but then what happened was the money was transferred from the highway line, which is D5130.2, the equipment line on highway, and it was transferred over in March to the capital projects account, the Bank of Millbrook, and then there was a check written in a full payment of cash of $193,566. There's no resolution on behalf of the board. I don't know if the board even knows that the money was transferred and that this truck was paid for in cash. The previous year, it had been in the minutes that a lease should have been taken out for it, and there was $47,000 in the budget for it. So I'm going to pass this out to you guys, and what I'd like to ask Patty Tompkins, Supervisor Tompkins, I'm sorry, let me pass this out, and our bookkeeper, if they can tell us in the year of 2016 when this was transferred, why it was transferred, why there was no resolution for the board, so we could understand, and that the board could understand and give permission and perhaps have a discussion about paying $193,000 out in cash. And the interesting part about it is that now tonight we're going to talk about the budget, and I pulled out the machinery, which is the same code, which is the 5130, which is the highway code. And on machinery, it has 2016. There's no truck listed. The $193,000 has disappeared. What they have on here is equipment for $73,737. So there is no truck here. I didn't make copies of this because you all have the budget. And when you get to the machinery page, take a look at 2016. It's a bit of a mystery. Now that is something, I guess what we'd like to know is how many times, $194,000 is a large sum of money. And that money was transferred out of highway. And when that money was transferred out of highway, I'm sure it was made up somehow, because about 6 months later, the highway superintendent, by the way, was not told about this transfer. But about 6 months later, the highway fund was going to be in need of that $194,000. So somebody put $194,000 back in the highway budget so that he could complete the year. Typically, he has a budget, and the budget is used. So about 6 months later, he needed some money. And where did the money go? Where did it come from that was put back in highway to make sure that he got to fulfill the rest of the year and make all the payments? Again, none of this was brought up to our highway superintendent, but we really want to know how many times the money's been transferred without the town board's permission, discussion, and without a resolution. Now, in the year 2017, and this is all just from foiled material, anybody can have this, it's all public information. Here's another question that we would really like, and I didn't bring you the whole statement, but as you guys know, some of you know, and if you foil information, you can get it. We had $663,000 in the Hudson Valley Credit Union, And the Hudson Valley Credit Union had been there for a long time, and I know that the state doesn't want people to have money in a credit union because it's not FDIC insured, which makes complete sense to me. And I know at some point, Brian Cortine, or our budget officer, Patty Tompkins, our supervisor, moved the money from the Hudson Valley Credit Union. Now, the thing is about the Hudson Valley Credit Union is that the money that was in there was all pre-appropriated for various things. There was park money, there was highway money, there were other things that have been pre-appropriated over the years. So again, I guess the credit union account was closed on October 4th. Our last board meeting, your board meeting, was on October 5th. There was no mention of the closing of an account. There was no mention in September about the closing of an account. So again, we have money moving. We have an institution, a whole account being closed at an institution, money moving to another institution without the entire board being aware. And I think this is a dangerous situation for us to be in, only because other towns have made mistakes that started from slipshod work. We don't want to have that here. So what I'd like to know tonight from Ryan, or the budget officer, if the supervisor can tell us, here, oh, I'll pass these out. This is the summary. I only brought one statement because there was too many pages. Do you mind passing those out? This is the summary that shows the $663,000 at Hudson Valley Credit Union and all the CDs that were there. And it doesn't have an explanation of how they were pre-appropriated, but certainly it's in the minutes, and certainly, I guess Lizette Hitzman probably knows, and other people probably know. But again, closed account, nobody knows, or maybe somebody knows, maybe our supervisor knows, but nobody else knows. The board didn't approve it. There's been no discussion about it, and we don't know if all that money was commingled into the general fund at the Bank of Millbrook like the escrow monies were before, mistakenly. So if Ryan Cortine, when he goes through the budget tonight, it would be really great if we could all hear an explanation to the 2016, where the truck went, how those monies were made up in the highway, since it's not in the budget this year. It doesn't show a 16 purchase. And then could he explain, since this is recent, I'm sure that this is easy to remember, and could the town board be made aware of what was transferred, where it was put, and how the pre-allocated monies were reassigned in new accounts? Okay? Those are my questions. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Patty, I have an email I received this afternoon from a resident that asked me if I could read it tonight. It's from Tana Jones. It says, "Dear Councilman and members of the Unionville Town Board, I am writing to you today concerning upcoming appointments to the Town Ethics Board. I have been told that the Sadlers have applied for positions on this board. During the recent Planning Board's hearings on the Kinnery Convenience Store project, the Sadlers accused former Supervisor Lizette Hitzman of deliberately polluting the site during the time she owned it. As the hearing progressed, at least 4 people gave evidence that the site was not contaminated and that this never happened. I believe the Sadlers had every right to voice their concern. However, the ethical thing to do after all testimony was given would have been to apologize to Mrs. Hitzman for their erroneous accusations and attack on her character. This would have been the honorable thing to do. In closing, I would like to pose this question to the board. How can you make appointments to the ethics board of someone that does not conduct themselves in an ethical way? Sincerely, Tana Jones."
Anyone else? Okay, reports of supervisor and council members. First, I'd like to read some correspondence from George Kolb regarding signs that were put up, and our code does not allow that. Event signs not exceeding 16 square feet in surface area displayed on private property and limited to one such event sign per premises announcing a campaign, drive, or event on a non-for-profit civic, educational, or religious organization to be erected not more than 10 calendar days prior to the event and removed within a period of 24 hours after the close of the event. It's come to his attention that quite a few political signs have been put up larger than the area specified in our town code, and he has sent out letters for the signs to be removed, though they have not yet. I can assure you that I have nothing to do with this. The other thing is, up on Pleasant Ridge Extension, a house burnt down over a year ago. They have rebuilt, and they want to thank the town, the fire department, the EMS, especially the animal control officer who saved their cat, and they are having a barbecue Saturday at 1 o'clock, and all town residents are invited.
Wow. Very impressive.
Town residents or EMS? Fire personnel?
Well, a lot of the town residents donated a lot of money and a lot of credit,
I'm just asking.
gift cards and everything, and they just want to show their appreciation to the town that they live in, and they love it here, and they much appreciate
See what nice
everything
residents, nice people.
everyone has done for them.
Absolutely.
John?
Okay, I've been going over the budget for the last couple of weeks, going over all the details. I have some questions. I had one that Ryan answered earlier today. So I know we're going over it in detail tonight, line by line, so I'm going to refrain from any further comments till we're doing that. And on a separate note, a few residents occasionally have complained to me about different things around the town. One was an abandoned washing machine along North Parliament Road, and abandoned houses that are not maintained. If anyone has a complaint relating to code enforcement, on our website, there is a complaint form you should fill out, email it to our code enforcement officer, George Kolb, and he'll be glad to. He's very prompt, he looks into things right away, and he's a very effective guy. So I just wanted to pass that on.
Let me know, John. Where's the
Karina?
washing machine?
He took care of it already.
Done.
Somebody must have it sitting outside.
It was out there for months.
North Parliament, North Clove.
North Parliament Road, it was out there for
Karina?
months.
So where's one on North Clove?
All right, well, I didn't get a complaint about that one yet.
No problem.
Okay.
All right, I just have a few things. I'm excited actually the Comptroller's Office just posted a very timely webinar coming up on the 31st, which I'm signed up for, to appropriate our fund balance, because as Ryan keeps telling us, we have $1 million fund balance, which we need to deal with responsibly and as good stewards of that money. And also that we're going to finalize our ethics board tonight. And so I've been in touch with the Association of Towns. They have very graciously agreed to do our first free training. So tentatively, our date is November 30th. People will be hearing about that. We'll be hosting it here. We'll invite other municipalities to take part in that. But so that everyone is clear, because lots of people think they understand what is ethical versus what is illegal versus what is good manners. And this really defines what we're talking about by the ethics board. So I'm excited about that. They've been in contact.
Dave?
I was signed up for the same webinar that Karina is, and there's another one coming up afterwards that I've signed up for. I've been going over the budget like everybody else, and that's been taking up pretty much most of my time. That's all I have.
Steve?
Yeah, same thing. I've spent my time reviewing the budget here, and we'll have some questions when that comes up.
Okay, and I've spent most of my time with New York State Comptroller's Office doing the audit. All right, we'll do reports now. Bookkeeper?
Good evening. So you have the monthly report in front of you. So for the month of September, the A fund revenues were $63,790.20. The A fund expenditures were $147,130.52. There was no D fund revenue, and the D fund expenses were $33,857.63. So obviously, a lot of what we're going to be discussing is the budget. So all that budget stuff I'll go over with when we sit down for the budget. So there's just some questions from a resident a little while ago about a truck in early 2016. One Supervisor Tompkins came into office We were not informed of any sort of lease for a truck that needed to take place. We were told that this truck is coming, and it cost $160 whatever thousand dollars that it cost, and so you'll need to pay that. In inquiring about this, Supervisor Tompkins and I, and pretty much everyone, found out from the people that came before us that this truck was part of, what we were told, part of the town getting a bond of $950,000. And so this would have been money that the town took in.
Who told you this?
This is what we were told.
By who?
Ryan, I have an email from Richie to you telling you about the lease purchase.
Excuse me, Ryan's up.
Who were you told this by?
We were told there was a lease. We went to the comptroller.
That's not what he just
No,
said.
there was a bond.
There was a bond. First off, this truck was...
Who were you told this by?
First off, this truck was never, there was never a town board resolution.
Are we gonna go there
or a town
again?
board vote.
There
We're
was
gonna
on
have
this
to go
one.
there.
There was
You're
on this
ask-
one. We're
excuse
talking
me.
about the Freightliner.
Excuse me. I'm talking about the Dodge. Okay.
Well,
you're
we're talking about the Freightliner here.
Okay. So there was a bond. Go ahead, Ryan.
So what we were told was that there was a bond,
So I
$950,000.
still want to go back, and who
Excuse
told
me,
you this? No,
can
I'd like to
Ryan
have,
please
I'd like to
finish
find
his-
out who gave you this
Excuse me.
information.
Ryan is not finished with what he has to say.
So we were told
We were told.
that there was a bond, $950,000. There was a bond. And that money for that bond was meant for a truck, that the truck was ordered. And so that the truck needed to be paid for. And so the truck was paid for.
Painful.
Now, we weren't told that there was supposed to be some lease. Once the truck arrives, you can't just start trying to figure out a lease for something that you already have like that, so. And there was a second question, right?
Let me jump in.
Yeah.
I heard from the question that the truck was approved in 2015 by the prior board.
Right.
Yes.
So was there a resolution? It should have been a resolution when you purchase something, how you're financing it. If there was a resolution, does anybody know, the clerk or anybody, if there was a resolution authorizing, I know you, Andrew wasn't the clerk then.
Right.
But there should have been a resolution.
And I wasn't the
You can't just
bookkeeper
buy
and
something and
she was
not
the
say we're
supervisor.
going to pay for it.
Right.
So there should have been a resolution authorizing a lease, and there should have been a lease.
Right, there was
signed
no
by the
lease.
supervisor at the time.
Right.
That's how you do things.
Well, the lease, the
There was
lease
no,
couldn't,
there wasn't a lease.
do you want an explanation of how this happened?
Sure, we've been waiting.
Yeah, it sounds like it
Well,
was.
I mean, we keep going back and forth here. I was on the board that approved this truck.
Okay.
John was as well. And we put money in the budget to put a year's worth of lease payments towards this truck. You can't open a lease until the truck arrives, and you have VIN numbers to supply the leasing company. So we couldn't have the lease in place. The truck took over a year from the time we ordered it to be delivered. So you can't open up a lease until you have a VIN number for that truck to give the leasing company.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Just asking a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Where's the documentation on all this?
I don't have that in front of me. I could go back and look for it, but I mean,
If I'm not mistaken, I believe Patty and the town clerk did go looking for.
well, I'd like to go back to
The
my
minutes.
other question. Who told you that this bond was to pay for that truck?
The previous administration.
Previous administration, which would include me.
Yes.
So who did that come from?
That came from paperwork that I found on my desk.
No. No.
There was a second question?
There should have been some type of resolution. The lease, the municipal lease agreement was finalized with the VIN number, but the truck, once it's purchased, they have a VIN number. It's just as simple of inserting the VIN number. All the legwork on the
Right.
finance.
Take
and the
place ahead of time.
Anticipation note is done in advance.
Yes.
Companies don't deliver a truck without knowing that they're gonna be
Right.
paid.
So how did that truck get delivered then if they didn't know how it was going to be paid?
I have no clue. How did the Dodge get delivered
I don't begin,
without
yeah.
being paid with?
Well,
no
again,
lease,
I
with
explained to
no
you several
town board
times how that was
resolution?
supposed to be paid for, the same procedure. We
And the
put a year's
paperwork
worth.
was in the previous supervisor's home where it was found
Well,
by the
I
highway
explained it to you
superintendent.
several times
How
when
was
the
I
issue came
supposed to
up and
know
you didn't
this?
want to listen.
It's not a question of not wanting to listen, it's a question of
Right
supplying
and
the
wrong.
documentation
Okay.
that the state controller requires.
They're talking about two different trucks.
Okay, so the
Do you want?
truck was paid for, which,
So how did the money get back into his account then? Where did that come from?
it got transferred from one bank account at the Bank of Millbrook to another bank account at the Bank.
What account was that?
It was over a year and a half ago. I'd have to look back at it. I don't remember every bank transfer for 2
Well, you
years.
expect me to remember every resolution that we had
I
back in
expect you to remember
2015.
how many trucks do you buy?
Brian, that's 194.
It's a big check.
Right. So
Excuse me,
I can go
Ryan
back.
speaking.
I can go back and look through the records. It just came up 5 minutes ago.
5 minutes ago.
So,
Okay, Ryan,
That was the end of
continue
my-
with your,
well, that was the end of my report. We're going to be
Report.
talking about the budget, and
Okay.
so thank you.
There was one other question she brought up. So we were closing out all the accounts of the credit union. We've pretty much been talking about that for a year.
Right.
Apparently that's been missed, that's
Apparently it's not
been
minutes.
town board
Not
discussion.
minutes.
I really can't attest to the minutes because I take my own notes and I know this is something we've talked about a lot because it
Yeah.
came up at my first January meeting.
Right.
years ago.
So when Supervisor Tompkins came into office, shortly thereafter, we found out that the town had been keeping money in a credit union, which, how can I word this? The state of New York doesn't have any law that allows for that to happen. I'm not going to say, I'm going to say it's not legal rather than something else. In talking with counsel, the advice was, well, it'll cost the town more money to just rip all that out of the credit union that it shouldn't be in. So as the different funds matured, these were CDs, then the supervisor and I had the credit union move the funds over to a just kind of a general kind of checking account there, and then the funds were brought from that credit union to the Bank of Millbrook where they were legally allowed to be. The funds that were seemingly A funds were put in the A fund, and the funds that were seemingly D fund were put in the D fund. The different designations for different funds were, one said park, one said rec, one said dam. So the only, again, no further explanation as to kind of what they were for. I mean, again, you can kind of put $100,000 into a CD and call it whatever you want. It didn't necessarily mean that whoever created that some years ago had any authority to, one, put the money in a credit union, and two, then designate it as this money for this and that money for that. The only funds that I could track down looking through the archives that seemed to make sense was the rec improvement fund, which was labeled in some way as rec or improvement. So again, that is part of the general fund. It's kept track of with an Excel document as to what's been spent out of there. As an example, the fence at Godfrey Park recently, the town board authorized money to be spent from there. So I think that answers that question.
Well, the question I asked was, where were the resolutions?
For what?
To do the transfers.
It requires a board resolution to transfer the money for the Freightliner, and it requires the same thing for the Hudson Valley Credit Union. $633,000.
So again, to transfer the funds from one bank account to another that the town controls, why would the town board need to be involved in that?
Well, I
It's
would
just-
like to know where our money is.
Right, and I'm fully prepared to explain that to
Well, I mean,
anybody.
it would be nice to know that
But-
this is happening.
Okay. Councilman Frazier,
Yes.
tell me of all the resolutions over the years you've been on the town board where the town authorized a transfer from one bank account to another bank account,
I don't have those in front of me.
because they probably don't exist.
Well, you folks here have done resolutions for every little thing that has come up, and all of a sudden, we don't have a resolution to transfer over $600,000.
I think the
Again,
confusion is the budget line transfer. So it is true, we cannot overspend a budget line without transferring that money.
No, we're
pri-
talking about transferring between
prior.
bank accounts.
But this, I agree, I've been on here close to 2 years, and we have never done a single resolution to change bank accounts. I was fully aware that as they matured, this was a plan we talked about last year. I
Yep.
can't tell you which meeting, but we've had this discussion openly at meetings, that it wouldn't be advisable to like lose interest on a CD that's not mature, but as things come due, we need to make every effort, especially now with the comptroller here, we need to make every effort to be in line with what New York State requires of us. But it's budget, the law requires that we transfer budget lines before overspending, not that we have a resolution every time a different account.
So again, the town of Unionville had no legal authority to have the $600,000 in a credit union. So, once this was found out, as Supervisor Tom came to office and I became the bookkeeper, we developed a plan to take that money and put it into the Bank of Millbrook where it was legally allowed to be. There doesn't need to be any board resolutions to move town money from one bank account to another. Every month, we move money from the Bank of Millbrook to Tompkins Bank to do payroll. There's no resolution for that every month. You don't vote on that. If you look back at the minutes for however many years you want, I don't imagine that you have any resolutions where you are transferring money from one bank account that the town controls to another bank account that the town controls. I don't know how else to continue to answer this question. It seems ridiculous.
Okay, then
You don't have to.
So-
195,000.
Code enforcement officer, please.
Thank you.
This is submitted by George Kolb for October 3rd for the month of September. The letter sent from my office to address the work at the Skyacres Airport for anticipated work for Cricket Valley transmission line installation has generated several positive responses from our residents for being proactive on this issue. The town of Unionville truck has been serviced as outlined. The budget request form has been submitted to the finance officer. The request to meet with the town of Unionville board to discuss at your convenience. If possible, please bring to everyone's attention that all wood stove appliances should be inspected and cleaned, as well as checking all smoke carbon monoxide detectors for proper operations. Inspections performed 84, violation notice issued 6, building permits issued 26, old permit COs issued 23, municipal searches 7, complaints received 7, violations abated 5, resident meetings 21, certified occupancy compliance 18, complaints acted upon 7, appearance tickets issued 3, fire callouts are 1, and plan review errors are 20.
Constables?
Constable's report is on file with the town clerk.
Thank you, Dave. Dog control?
During the month of September, there was 1 lost dog, 1 found dog, and 1 dog complaint.
Highway?
Up a little bit. Report for September and October 2017. Repaired a catch basin on Ridgecrest Drive, replaced the drainage pipe on Highview Road, removed a dangerous hanging limb from South Parman Road, fixed a drainage issue on South Parman Road, dug out and properly shaped a ditch line on Quinlan Road, used 25 tons of blacktop on Robinwood Lane for road repair and 5 tons on Bloomer Road, used 20 tons of blacktop on Timor Park Road, patched some smaller areas on Pleasant Ridge Extension, Quinlan, Cutler, and West Clove Mountain Road, removed and replaced a catch basin and 2 failing pipe crossings on Timor Park Road, picked up some roadside garbage on Pleasant Ridge Extension, blacktopped the new pipe crossings on Oswego Road. We've been working on Sanders for the winter, cleaned up and organized the back shop. And I received a phone call yesterday around Tuesday around 3:45 in the afternoon. I don't know how it happened, but looks like somebody threw their car window out in the middle of the road, maybe 2 or 3 of them. But there was a large amount of glass, and I went down there and cleaned it up with my own personal tools and got it out of the way. And approved 2 driveway applications. That's it.
I just have a question. I'm wondering if you could shed some light on the events of September 25th.
What's that?
So we have a very upset resident
Okay.
on West Cove Mountain Road. So would you like to explain?
He wasn't upset when I left. Everything's good. We took care of the problem, took care of the issue. He's fine. We gave him all the firewood. There is no issue.
So the police, the deputy sheriff was not called?
Oh, no, they were called. I mean, it's all taken care of. We had an agreement. The gentleman was very happy, very pleased, and we went on our ways. There's no more issues. There's no more safety hazards. It's all fine.
Really?
Yep, end of conversation.
Actually, it's not, because in the police report,
Mr.
you named
Wiseman?
me.
Can you please
So-
stand up?
I have a copy of the police report given to me by the resident.
Can we get copies of that,
So-
please?
Yes, I'm passing them down right now. So if you look at the report, it states that, actually, I'm implicated. Oh, it's double-sided. There's for Andrea, too. And one for Richie if he wants it. I'm actually implicated. It says a town councilman recently reached out to the property owner advising him of the hazard and that it would be removed, according to Wiseman. Can you shed some light on that statement?
Did you talk to the individual before that meeting, when you had the pictures?
No. I have not spoken to this man.
You're friendly with it,
Ago, I
aren't
St.
you?
Ange's house for a Halloween
Did you say you're
party.
friends with him?
No, I'm neighbors with him. That is my
All right, I'll go back to the meeting and watch that. Anyway, here's the deal. The tree was up there. You put it out on TV that it was dangerous, it was going to hurt somebody, we can get sued. I went and took care of it.
But the meeting note says Councilwoman Kelly asked about a tree on West Cove Mountain Road. Mr. Wiseman replied that the tree is on private property and was asked verbally by the homeowner to not take the tree down. Councilwoman Kelly asked that a letter be sent to the homeowner that this is creating a dangerous condition and therefore makes the town non-liable for any issues. And Mr. Wiseman agreed to do so. What happened in 4 days that went from write a letter to you had informed us on the 21st. that you were gonna call the
He
police
asked to hire a
department.
surveyor to actually show us trespassing because the way Dutchess County parcel access is with the property maps, that tree is in our right of way and on his property line. So it was still within our right of way to go ahead and remove what we had to remove. And we did, and we had an agreement. I didn't shake his hand, but he got all the firewood and that's what he wanted. And he was happy, and we cut it up for him. And that's all there was to it. Nobody's going to get hurt now. Whatever wood is up there, if it comes down, it's on him.
He was not happy, Mr. Wiseman.
Okay.
And I am preparing the town board that we should call our insurance company and a civil suit may be following. I have met with him this week. We have actually been to the sheriff's office this week. I was there
So
several
you're
hours.
escalating the issue. You yourself personally are escalating the issue going after me.
It's not my.
So did you
civil
call him, or did he come up to you and talk to you?
He reported to us.
Well, let me just-
Actually, he
Okay.
reached out to Patty first because he was very confused at why, he's like, I haven't spoken to this woman in forever. Why did he tell this to the police? And so he was very confused. And so Patty said that is not at all what happened.
Okay.
And so at first Patty and I actually met with him to try and calm him down. But no, he is not okay with this.
Okay.
I'm sure watching the meeting, he's loving your smirk right now. But I would take this seriously, as I
Okay.
do believe
No
we
problem.
should prepare
Well,
for a civil
all
suit.
I know is nobody's going to get hurt. Everybody's safe. Nothing's going to fall into the road. It's over and done with.
And this is a tree that you complained about at the
Yep.
last meeting.
Yes.
The legal thing to do is to write a letter. When
Let it
someone
go back and
tells
forth
you-
and argue with this guy, because
Yeah, in the meantime, the tree
This
falls
is a
down
guy-
like you
this is a
predicted and hurt
guy-
somebody, then what?
this is a guy that got into a running excavator while it was operating, snuck around the machine and jumped literally into the excavator with a video camera.
Is
We were
that
trying to clean
really
ditch
true?
lines.
Is that
Yeah.
really true?
He's got it
Because
on video camera.
He's ready to hand over the tapes.
Okay.
That never happened.
Okay.
He
Then
did
we had
video
Right
it.
there.
we had to
He
call the
did
cops that
video
day.
you,
We
but
had to
the
call the cops that
videos-
day for harassment, and George Kolb was actually involved in that too. The sheriff went up and pounded on his door repeatedly, and the guy would not come outside.
That's interesting, because there's no sheriff's
no
report
report.
for that entire week.
But when
and
it
you
comes down to it,
remove
when
the
we go that
tree.
far, you'll get a report from that sheriff, trust me. There's no problem with that at all.
But there's no sheriff report from our entire road that entire week.
From when we
Of
first started
June-
taking it down?
Of June 7th.
It was
when you
the week
removed.
before when we were doing the drainage.
So you're saying that to somebody you feel is a danger to you, you're repeatedly exposing yourself to go to his property?
This, enough's enough. Goodbye.
Rich,
He doesn't have to come up and take this.
I just wanted to ask him, please don't leave. I have a question for you.
What is it?
What's going on with Deer Pond?
That
What-
started Monday morning. We got delayed by the rain.
Okay.
Monday
I'm
morning,
just
rain.
asking.
We'll be there.
And Mr.
I don't need
Frazier,
the
Yes.
attitude.
if anyone's gonna implicate me when the sheriff is called, especially when I had
Well,
nothing to do with
I
it,
recall last meeting that
Then-
you made a huge issue out of how dangerous this tree is, and now you're complaining that the danger was removed. Oh, it just,
No.
it seems awful hypocritical to
I'm
me.
complaining of how it's carried out.
Okay.
It was carried out in a non-proper,
Now, this is what happens a few weeks
very
before an election.
odd manner, because I know what actually happens in towns and in the county. When someone says, no, this is procedure, when someone says, don't take that tree down, that's on my property, actually, it's like on the county or the town to pay for the surveyor. So once the man said, it's on my property, you were supposed to halt work back in June. And then we have to pay for the survey.
Back in June.
Okay? By September 25th, when the sheriff is called. Once he says, you actually stated on the 21st that the man told you it was his private property. So somewhere before the 21st, you had that information because it is on the record. I've watched it again repeatedly. And so when someone says it's private property, if we continue to go on their private property, it is no longer appropriate, no matter what our position. It is harassing to our residents. So it is then on us to hire a surveyor. It is totally within your rights and duties as a highway superintendent to write a letter. That's all you were asked to do, write a letter.
Yeah, well,
And you repeat
you
it.
have no
I will
idea what
write
I'm dealing with
a letter.
Okay. Good night.
Is anybody smirking?
Media.
Anybody smirking?
Media,
Excuse me, your comments are not
You
appropriate.
want me to come up to the microphone?
No,
It's
that
not your
is
turn.
later.
Hello. All right, so the new phone system went live on October 11th. Since then, I broke the alarm system. Working on that. There is a backup communication to the monitoring center, so we do have communication if anything happens. I've confirmed that with them. Currently having trouble getting them to send a tech out, which is annoying because when I wanted them to come out and test it in the first place, they sent the tech right away. Now I'm here and I want to try and get it resolved, and they're like, oh, we'll call you back in an hour. Nothing. So getting that resolved as soon as possible, and then talk to you guys about moving to cellular for that service so we can get rid of that copper line as well, or that number that we're using on the new phone system. So the original issue was that I was told when we were doing the cutover that the number used by the alarm system for alerts to the monitoring center was a copper dedicated line. It was actually on the SIP trunks that we were migrating, the digital phone numbers from our provider. So that's why that dropped out. I currently have a device on it emulating a copper line so that there will be communication once he tells me where to put the cables. I have 7 phones in order for the court system and for the constable. I have a phone in there for the judge now that is linked to the 3288 number. So any calls coming in will go to that in that mailbox. Jill's phone will be installed in her home within the next week. We moved the credit card machines for the court to TCP/IP instead of the phone line. More reliable, better communication, and that's one more thing we can now get rid of and save cost. And then just alarm system winning text, so that's it.
thank you, Ryan.
Busy month, huh?
Yes.
Thanks for all your efforts.
Parks,
Oh, and this as well.
So, since the last meeting I was at, Oktoberfest happened. I just wanted to thank my team. They did an awesome job keeping things running during Oktoberfest. It went well. We've had a lot of trail work done. It's fall, lots of leaves, lots of everything else. We've been out in the park. Thompson On's been awesome, helping out, getting out, clearing trails so everybody can get out and use them. And then Tom T has been working with the rec department for Halloween and the Halloween celebration coming up. Want to thank Brian Butts. Richie sent Brian Butts over, and we were able to clean out behind the soccer fields up on top. There were a couple of residents who were asking about that, so that's all taken care of now. I want to let everybody know on Sunday there is a trail race happening at the park. If anybody wants to sign up, there are signs down at the park. And then the highway came in, did some work on the Timor Park Road, so we've got all that. And it's fall.
Very good.
So.
Cool.
Recreation?
I have a lot to get to tonight, so I won't keep you very long. But thank you again for a great Oktoberfest. We look forward to 2018, had some great partnerships, community involvement, and I'm pretty sure the food line went super smooth. It was a really hot day. We didn't see the amount of people that we did see in that trifecta of beautiful weather in 2016, but we still came out on top, and as you can see on your report, we're still in a very profitable zone with the proceeds that went to the town. So, success all around. Our Halloween party and haunted house is Twisted Toys this year, and it will be held on Saturday. New this year, by popular demand, was a junior-style haunted house for the little ones who still want to come out, but they don't want to get really super scared. So we made our event for a Saturday this year instead of a 2 to 4 this Saturday. We will have a haunted house junior style, and for anyone maybe who need a different sensory experience, it would be really great to come out for those 2 hours and go through the haunted house without things jumping out at you, and it won't be as dark, it'll be a little more mellow. And then from 5 to 9, we have the classic version of our spooks and thrills and games, and we're gonna party it up. So I hope that you're gonna send everybody out and see us on Saturday. It will be an all-day affair this year. Jake mentioned that there is the race, so we're really excited. The trails are looking so fantastic. I was out running on them this morning, and it looks so super nice. We have a last movie night of the season coming up Friday, October 27th. Young Frankenstein will be showing in the park at 7 p.m. It is not per se a children's movie, so it is up to the parents to make that judgment call on if you want your kids to see it, but it's a great event for young adults and anyone to experience that before Halloween. And then save the date, of course, for Dinner with Santa, Saturday, December 2nd. 3:30 p.m. The one little change we're making this year is the lighting ceremony won't be so late at 6 p.m. because it's already really dark. And so it will be really nice to have the lighting ceremony take place at 5 p.m. this year because it's just dark and there's a really big lull. So we're gonna do that at 5 p.m. Hopefully everyone can stick around and see all of the lights pop on at the park. It's a really great tradition, so I hope to see you all there. And if you have not registered residents, please go on our website, unionvalerec.com, and make sure you secure those spots because it is an event always not to miss. And some people miss it because you don't register on time. So please do that. December 2nd. Thank you. Happy budget.
Planning and zoning?
Okay, planning board for September of 2017, busy month. There was a special use permit application fee for M. Gillespie and Associates, and we received $250. An escrow deposit by Scott Excavating for $816.49. And a escrow deposit also from Andrea Main for $1,500. Total receipts for planning board in September, $2,566. Zoning board for September, there was an area variance application fee for $250 from Donna Wenzel.
Recycling?
So everything's going smoothly at the dump. A couple things I'm working on. One is that our roll-off open-top containers are getting very old. They're 30 years old. One of them has been parked for a few years. It needs to be replaced or repaired. I found out today that both of our aging units cannot be repaired, actually. So we only have to replace one of them. So it's in the budget tonight for an equipment line for $7,000. That's the highest cost to buy a new one, but I'll give you all that documentation next month. We would get a scrap credit for both dumpsters. Right now, it's 4 cents a pound. Next month, it could be 9 cents a pound. We can wait around until the price gets better. So anyway, I'm working on that. And also, I'm very happy to be meeting with Paul Curran, who is a Beekman resident, whose business it is to put solar fields on brownfields and capped landfills. So tomorrow morning at 8:30, we'll meet at the site and try to get something rolling on that. So
Very nice.
that's it.
Good.
Thanks.
Town clerk?
Andrea Casey, Town Clerk. Conservation licenses, $2,528. Certified copies, $490. The copy machine was $19.50. Marriage license, $40. After school TGTT was, actually summer camps before that at $302.50. After school was $5,123. Other recreation revenues, $130. Swim passes, $10. Special events, $21,007. Recycling center and compactor fees were $5,240. The refuse bin was $1,117.20. And also the dog fees for $180 and $93. So after all fees were paid, a check for $33,763.01 was handed to the supervisor.
Okay, discussions, Bill Humphrey?
Tell us the good news about health insurance. If there is any.
It's like an oxymoron.
Good evening, everybody. Quick recap from last year, I'm sorry. A little recap from last year. We started last year, we made a lot of changes in the beginning. We got people where they needed to be, straightened it out. I heard from a lot of the townspeople, members who were enrolled and their spouses. So they got the idea that they can call me when they needed help, and everything after the first 4 months really calmed down, went smooth, and we were good until we got a renewal. Hey, in your package is summaries of the plans we have. With CDPHP, we have 2 plans, and the Medicare plan. On the right-hand side of your folders are the numbers. That's what we're going to be talking about real quick. We'll start with the easy one first. The Medicare supplemental plan we have that covers the retirees. Excellent plan, only went up by 3%. So that's a no-brainer. We can keep that plan with CDPHP, which I recommend. We do not touch it. We just leave it alone. 3% is wonderful in the world of healthcare. We'll take it. On the other side, our CDPHP plans came up at an average of about 23.78% increase. Pretty painful. So I shopped this out and looked at all the carriers available to us. My recommendation to the board is we go to MVP. We can get a plan that almost mirrors exactly what we're offering now. The rate increase will be 6.7%, which is wonderful. The only major difference to the plan, it increases the deductibles for the individuals from $2,000 to $2,200, families from $4,000 to $4,400. Now, the town right now funds half of those amounts through the health reimbursement account. If the town increased those amounts to cover half of the new amounts, it'll only increase the town's expenditure by $1,500. Possibly, it may not even get used. Because remember, the health reimbursement account is money for them to use. If they don't use it, the town retains the money. The prior year, the health reimbursement account was used at a rate about almost 80%. This year, it's down to about 62, which shows we're a little healthier this year. So, but as far as the plan goes, MVP's network is fantastic. The town, I believe, I spoke to some members before. We've had it before. People have liked MVP. National network, local doctors, great service. It would be, in my opinion, a no-brainer to move the small group plan over to MVP. And if the board just decides to go that way, it would be nice if we get that ratified sooner than later, because I need time to set people up, get the HRA set up, so I don't want people screaming at me going, where's my ID card? You know, we want to make it work nice and smooth. I think I gave you probably more than you need, but all the details are in your packets for the numbers, and be happy to answer any questions you have.
Does anyone have any questions for Bill right now?
Thanks for laying it out so clearly.
I try to make it simple, and my
Yeah.
card's in there, so between now and your next meeting, when you decide what you want to do, if anybody needs to call me, have any questions, please don't hesitate. Okay?
Bill is always available, believe me.
Oh, yeah, I called him on behalf of a retiree, and he took care of the problem. Was not a simple one, but he did a good job resolving it, so
You got
thank
that.
you for that.
No, my pleasure. Okay, thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks, Bill.
Have a good night.
We have to worry about.
They should have let you go.
Was it 15 minutes? Yeah.
Okay, Ryan?
All right. Get some popcorn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Toothpicks, too.
Well, what he sets up, I can go.
Yeah, go.
We're gonna take a short,
Like 3-minute recess while you set up.
Yeah, you have a setup time.
She forgot her red folder.
Cameras off?
No.
Oh, thanks.
I don't know. I don't think.
Just before we get into the budget, let me give you a copy of these. Take one first. This is the voucher for Mohawk Valley Freightliner. So it was, and so it has the paperwork behind it. I just photocopied the voucher page. So it was to order a new 2016 plow. It was signed by the highway superintendent on April 9th. I'm going to go with 9th, 2015. Then it was signed by the sales manager January 14th, 2016 for $193,566. Then it was signed by 3 town board members for approval for payment. And what I have here are the bank records. We waited till March because towns are cash poor in January and February. We're waiting for the tax dollars to come in. So the money was transferred from the highway fund to the capital projects fund because that's where something like this would be paid for. And it was paid for with town funds, authorized by the majority of the town board, authorized by the previous town board to buy the truck. So I don't know what else there is to discuss. So I'll move on with the budget now.
Okay, thank you, Ryan.
You know, I want to go back to this for a minute. You stated several times that you were told by the previous administration that this money was to come out of a bond.
I didn't say the previous administration. By the time.
What did you say then?
I said you were told.
Okay, so you said that you were told by the previous administration that this was to come out of a bond.
I was left notes on my desk, and that's it.
So you weren't actually told by anybody that this was to come out of a bond?
My computer was cleaned out. There was no...
But the statement you made more than once was that you were told by the previous administration, which would lead me to believe that you spoke with someone. And that's not the case, is it?
I was left instructions.
No, you weren't. No, you weren't, because the instructions would have been to put a lease on that truck.
All right, so we're moving on with the budget now.
Let's go on with the budget now.
Yeah.
Okay. So the town board was given the budget by the town clerk 2 weeks ago. I just want to address something else that came up. There's some question about why there was some reference to the general election coming up. That's because it's in the state law regarding public hearing, and it's in the resolution tonight that the town board is going to pass, and I'll just read that now. Town law, section 108, public hearing. The town board shall hold a public hearing on the preliminary budget showing such changes, alterations, and revisions. Sorry. Message popping up here. The town board shall hold a public hearing on the preliminary budget showing such changes, alterations, and revisions as shall be made therein by such board pursuant to subdivision 3 of section 106 of this chapter. Such hearing shall be held on or before the Thursday immediately following the general election, except in towns in Westchester and Monroe counties. So, and what I remember is what was discussed is that the reason for having it on Thursday, November 9th was it could be on Thursday, November 9th. This gave the public 3 weeks to review the preliminary budget that would be adopted tonight, rather than 1 or 2 weeks. And so the idea was to give the public more time to review the preliminary budget.
And the town board voted on it.
Right. And so the going forward now, the process would be that we'll go through the budget. I know several town board members. Several town board members had a question or multiple questions for me that I did my best to answer. And so it's, again, all this entire process is up to the town board. Excuse me. As I stated 2 weeks ago, The preliminary budget column was, would be pre-filled in, and it was pre-filled in, again, just to save time, because you're all going to agree 95% of the time that these numbers should be what they were in the tentative budget. And obviously, you're going to discuss 5 or 10% of the time, but it saves about an hour of me watching me type in each number on each page to just have all of it filled in ahead of time. Again, if a majority of the town board wants a number to be different.
Do we have this page in our packet?
I picked the first
Yes.
budget page.
Doesn't match what I have here.
No, like go in a few pages.
I picked the first budget
10.
page that is detailed.
Right, 1010.
So, just to illustrate the point that the column's already filled in, but if 3 or 4 or 5 of you want the number to be something else,
Right.
then it's something else. Okay. So, as you'll see here, there were a number of budget pages, and so they're colored in yellow, that the number is different, than what was in the tentative budget, and I'll explain why. Again, a lot of it's based on either looking at the updated year-to-date numbers, maybe this number should be a little higher, a little lower. Some of it's based on the questions from town board members, like the Association of Towns being 1,200 instead of 800. So put that in, seeing as the town board everyone might agree on that, and this way we wouldn't forget what someone's idea was as to it being different. So we can just go through each page, all the expenditures, then we can go through the revenues, and then we can look at where we are at the end of that. Okay. So we're going to start with town board budget, page 1010. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. Then we'll just go page after page after page from there. Okay. All right. So the only difference was, again, that example of the New York State Association of Towns annual meeting expenses for 2 people being 1,200 instead of 800. But everything else is the same. Any questions?
You say we're changing that to 1,200?
Well, it was my suggestion that if we already know that sending you and Dave this past year cost $1161, like, why would we only budget 800?
Yeah,
Like,
I
you
get
know
that.
it's not hardy enough.
I just want to make sure I'm following along correctly.
Yeah,
that's
so
all.
my suggestion was at least to come up, at least for the preliminary budget, to at least come up to 1,200 as a talking point, so we at least cover what theoretically, I guess there'd be like probably a little increase per year in what things would cost.
Yeah.
Or if somebody had a different meal and their voucher was different, it would be different.
All right. Anything further on 1010?
Did we vote on a pay raise for the town board members?
1%.
So what the supervisor put in was a 1% increase. It is up to the town board to decide what your pay can be. It can be the same, it can go up.
I'd be happy with 0.
Because there's an election, it can go down.
I'd be happy with 0 too.
Did you just say that?
What? I didn't say 0.
No.
No, someone else said 0. I said no, just.
No, forget it.
No, John
What?
said he would be
We
happy with
can't,
0.
what he's saying is.
I know what he said.
In other years, in other years, it can't go down because it's in the middle of
When you're in your
everyone's term.
term,
But it's,
right.
yeah, it can go. I was pointing out a fact. So, any questions?
I mean, I'm all for leaving it, static the way it was, flat the way it was, instead of an increase.
And that's fine with me too.
It's up to
0 increase for me is fine.
Okay.
I took a 0 increase last time, so.
We all did.
Okay, so then this number
So
would
we're
go back
to. Is it
23,040.
23,040?
Yeah. And so we'll need to change the resolution for later, because the
Okay.
elected officials' salaries are in that resolution, so.
Okay.
It should now say 5,760 on the resolution for making its preliminary budget later tonight.
I'll put that here.
Okay. Thank you. So the number is back to $23,040, which is $5,760 for each of the 4 town board members. That is not the supervisor. Okay. Anything else from budget 1010? Moving on. Budget 1110. No changes from the tentative budget. Any questions?
So just to be clear, they too received a 1% increase?
Yes.
So are we keeping them at 0 or are we keeping them at 1%?
No, we'll keep that at 1%.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we got some of the lowest paid judges anywhere.
Yeah.
We'll be getting food stamps if we had it any lower.
Luckily, we're
Anything further than 1110? All right. 1220, the supervisor budget.
And I'm going back to 20,060.
20,060. That's up to the majority of the town.
That's fine. I'll agree with Patty if she's willing. Everyone else?
No one.
Will you agree for Patty not taking a raise?
It's up to her.
No, she said she agrees to that. We need to.
Then I'll go along with
It's up to 3 or 4 or 5 of you.
All right, so 3 of us say yes.
4 of us say yes.
Okay. Anything else on 1220? Okay. 1310. I guess it should have been said by myself or the town supervisor, the budget officer. Just basically, pretty much everybody who's a full-time, regular part-time employee was given a 1% pay increase across the board with some exceptions that we would point out. So there's 1% increases for these 2 positions. It's up to the town board as to what it is.
Seems fine.
I say leave the 1%.
You can handle the tax bracket. Go ahead.
What is this line budgetary?
That was in there last year.
I was in there last year too. I was the only one that
Councilwoman Kelly asked about it. Since of all the paper that you use to make these budgets, it was $100 to buy a tree to plant. We can take it out.
We're buying a tree?
No.
You're killing a tree.
It's
We're killing a tree for all the paper for these budgets.
We got like 3 copies of the full budget
Right, by the time
last
we're done.
year.
Yeah.
And so
Plus the public.
So why don't we call that
actually
office
think-
expenses?
I actually like it being like in here because it's really part of the budget. I don't want it to look like it's coming out of Andrea's line because it really is like above
Well, you can
and
put it in
beyond.
this section.
I'm sorry, say it again.
Paper fees?
Oh, you can rename
Do whatever
it.
you want. Whatever you want to do.
You can just call it
Budget paper fees?
paper. Copies, I don't know. Copies? Copy fee?
Paper supplies.
Paper expenses.
Sure. Paper supplies.
Okay.
Okay. Anything further on 1310? 1320, the auditor account. Just to explain something here. The bond, financial advisor, and miscellaneous, $15,000 this year. The expense ended up being $9,900. That was just a one, if you remember from last year when we discussed, that was just a once-off expense for doing the bond
Right.
that the town needed to do.
Right.
After 5 years of a bond anticipation note.
Anticipation note, when we
Yeah.
went to the bond, it was 9,900, right?
Yes.
And we have nothing upcoming?
Hmm?
We have nothing upcoming?
For the bond?
We already got the bond.
No, no additional bonds that we anticipate.
No, it was just for the, so that when the town got that bond 5 years ago, $950,000, been paid down at around $30,000 or $35,000 a year for 5 years. A bond anticipation note can only be utilized for 5 years, and then you have to convert it over to a bond. Most municipalities budget those in a way where you would pay off 20% of the principal of the bond anticipation note each year for 5 years, so that there is no bond at the end of 5 years. But that was a sizable bond.
Yeah.
So it got down to just around 800,000, and so the town had to
Buy the bond, right?
The bond. And so yeah, again, the expense here is just one-time expense for the financial advisor, and just it really was $10,000 for a financial advisor, $5,000 for miscellaneous in case anything else came up in doing the bond, and there wasn't. Okay. 1330 is the tax collection count. With the town board's decision to eliminate the elected position of the tax collector, the funding for this was brought to zero, and the BAS computer program, the software that gets used for tax collection, is put in a different budget. We'll see it later. All the other expenses are in mostly or entirely, I think entirely in the tax collection. The town clerk budget. The town clerk will be responsible for collecting taxes.
So just so I understand the BAS computer program, how it increased. So
Yes.
we are now paying what just came in January, the increase, the 1850? Is
No,
that right? No.
the bill, when I talked with the sales rep, I guess I'll call
Yeah.
it, from Business Automation Services, just you had that question, and it was a good question. What he realized is that the bill is due December 15th, and I said, well, we budget, now for next year, but you can't tell me what it's going to be next year. So he's like, well, most people just kind of pay us, just pay us in January. I said, well, then you just change the due date for the invoice to January 31st? Okay. And he said, yeah, that's fine. So the use of the software is for the upcoming year. And so there's a voucher, it's already made out. I think there might be a requisite number of signatures for $1,700, because that's what it's going to cost for the use of that tax collection software next year. He sent another invoice, the clerk's office has it, just changing the invoice due date from the middle of December to the end of January next year.
Okay.
That way it can just be paid in January of next year. And so you'll see it's budgeted now for $1,700 when we get to that later budget page.
Okay.
And so then the next year, he doesn't know what it will cost, but we'll be able to find out during the budget process a year from now.
Right.
And then put in, it'll probably be 1820 or 1850 like you suggested, but at least this way we'll know what it
went
is.
from like 1525
Yeah,
to
and looking back
1700.
over the last few years, it seems to go up more than 100 each year. It was 14 something the year before that. It was
It's a monopoly, that's
12 something the year before that. So.
Yeah, it was 1520. And then
It was 1520. Yeah, but we budgeted 1520 because it was 1520.
Right, which makes sense.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
1340 is the budget. The budget. It's just the salary for the supervisor as budget officer.
So that also went up.
Has a 1% increase.
Did you not want to take that as the budget officer too?
Yeah,
no, increase?
that can go back down.
All right, so
1%,
that doesn't
that's
change here.
$30.
I'm in agreement. If you're not willing to take the pay increase, I'm in agreement. Anyone else?
I'm in agreement.
I'm in agreement.
Okay. That's the only thing on that budget, is just that salary.
So we're back down to
Big money.
30.
No increase. And it's not listed on this page, so it's fine. I'm changing them.
Next would be 1355 for the assessor. So again, the assessor is not an employee of the town of Unionville. The assessor is an employee of the town of LaGrange. The town of Unionville has an agreement with the town of LaGrange. And that agreement, the town of LaGrange is looking to expand that agreement to include Pleasant Valley. So just, that's why you don't see anything in point 1 for the assessor, because it's a point 4 contract.
Yeah.
And in communicating with the town of LaGrange supervisor and the information that his finance office provided, it should cost somewhere around $25,000 next year. Again, because part of that includes, it's a little fuzzy just because part of it includes conferences or mileage or some other fungible items. And I don't know if they know precisely what their health insurance is going to be yet. Okay, and then the rest is for the secretary, for the assessor. And the increase here for the data collector, besides being a 1% increase, is just a 50% increase in the number of hours. The assessor said he would really benefit from having the data collector, the person who goes around and actually takes the photos and everything, would benefit from that person working more. That's why you see you're going from 3328 up to a little over 5,000. Anything on 1355?
Yeah. What's the difference here between the department and tentative on the salary? Town clerk salary.
No, we're on 13, anything further on 1355?
1355.
No, okay.
We're not.
1410.
Okay.
Councilman Fraser, you had a question? The difference here?
Yeah, is that the 1%?
So the department request was for a 2% increase. You can see that at the top of, near the top of the screen on the wall, how it's the current number times 1.02. And the supervisor wanted people to have a 1% increase. Same for the deputy supervisor.
Deputy town clerk.
Yeah.
Deputy town clerk, sorry. Deputy town clerk. And then the addition of a tax collecting clerk. So this, in the budget would be someone who makes, the number 5,866 is someone who makes $16.50 an hour with a 1% increase next year for 16 hours a week for 22 weeks. There was also a request for a laptop, and then just the rest of it.
Is that enough money?
That's what I was just going to ask. Is that enough money for a laptop?
Plus programs or software?
I think
Plus software?
Andrea,
Well,
you looked for it, right, Andrea?
Separate.
You ran through and I had come up with some kind of tentative numbers and with the software portion and something, just to record the meeting minutes. I think that should be good. That's right. I think I can find something in there.
Okay. Anything further on 1410? Okay. 1420 has a change from the tentative budget. $12,000 budget for local laws and litigation. You can see from the formula up here that we subtracted away 3,755 and moved that to, I believe, the town board budget to pay for updates to the code books. But you can also see that we just haven't spent any money on local laws. The town of Union hasn't spent any money on local laws and litigation. So the thought was that instead of it being $12,000, it could be budgeted for $8,000 since there hasn't been anything spent on it.
What exactly is the bond council?
Oh, sorry, again, that's for the bond. Again, that was another one-time expense.
Okay, that's what I thought.
So we were told it might cost $10,000 and it's costing $7,465.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, and so that goes away. Anything further on 1420?
No.
Uh, 1440, engineer.
Did he reduce his prices?
I don't think so.
Well, yeah, I mean, year to date, we're at, for engineering and then
26,000.
planning, zoning and planning, right?
Yeah.
40, almost 47,000. There, I mean, there's always gonna be some bills to pay, and it's gonna go up. Something we
I mean,
revisited
this was a
with the
really
adopted
busy
budget.
year, so
Yeah.
it seems like we're pretty much on track if we keep.
Yeah, the only thing is, the
numbers.
planning board is getting a lot more active.
Right.
Yeah, but a lot of that gets passed on to the client.
Yes,
Right, and
Yeah.
this is year to date, this is what we've paid, so.
Okay.
Okay, so, and again, remember just.
If you go back to 2016, the actual expenditure was 50,809.
And so we budgeted 55,000,
Yeah.
but as of,
Excuse me?
but so what was budgeted was 55,000, based on it looking to be
16,
50-something
yeah.
thousand dollars. And so far this year for engineering, it's 26.
All right, so
Near that.
40 is
Right, but
reasonable.
when you make a budget, you go on a multi-year trend, not necessarily what happened the previous year.
Sure. So if you extrapolate that, the 26,000 out.
Try to average out what your costs are.
Right. So if you extrapolate that out, that would come to probably about 40,000 for the year, 26,000. Probably come to about 40,000 for the year. It's something that could be revisited. Again, there's stuff we're going to say, and just remember this through the process. This isn't the end of the process. You can discuss all this again on the 9th after the public hearing. We can discuss it all again on the 16th.
Right.
And you
I mean, that's when it's got to be
can
finalized,
research
but, yeah, and we could look at,
where we were doing nothing,
Right.
and that number may go down,
Right, may go up.
may go up.
Okay. 1460, records management. This is something that we do need to look at, because this is being used to pay the historian, but there's also an historian budget that should be paying the historian.
Right,
I know
which
you
is why
asked
I was
a
confused.
question about that, so we're going to look at that. Paid out of the wrong budget line. If I recollect, records manager is probably supposed to be the town clerk. So the town clerk's supposed to get another $255 at the end of the year. So we might, the supervisor and I and the payroll clerk can just look this over, and it might just be that it's coming from the wrong line.
Yeah.
And- yeah.
Okay.
Okay, 1620. So again, this was just a bit to explain here. So this was one of those budget where there was a contractual 4.1, 4.2, and 4.3 in years past. So it was, again, broken out into different lines to just further explain what the expenses would be. And remember, these are all good estimates. Sometimes it's going to be a little more, sometimes it's going to be a little less. And then we need to make an adjustment as we go through the year.
On this remediation thing, I know we got, what, about $50,000 from the insurance company?
72.
Oh, 72, okay. Where does that shows where is, in the back of the,
So back,
way at the end?
no, at the front, but
Should be
yeah,
in
in
the
the revenue.
Revenue, okay.
And what was the actual cost?
145.
Is that actual cost, or was it,
63.
is that minus the 72?
No, so that's the whole expense.
That was
That's everything.
And then the revenue,
About half.
72
And the
came from
insurance on that was 50,000?
No, 72.
72?
So basically, almost half came from insurance,
Yes.
which was nice.
And where did the other half come from?
It came from our contingency fund.
Yeah,
Contingency.
Right.
thank God we had one.
Yeah.
where were we?
And we'll plan
Where were we?
for one.
Right.
That's why
16,
people
20.
have a contingency fund.
Yeah, that came out of the blue. No one saw that one coming.
All right, so the change here is just looking at the electric, and also reading that Central Hudson's rates
Going up?
Yeah.
Yeah,
maybe
7%.
going up, or are going up.
We're looking to raise.
It seemed reasonable that instead of budgeting 30,000, which we might have already looked to go through that, budgeting 34,000 seemed more in line. And I think this is something we should look at again in a few weeks' time, because maybe it should be 40,000. I'm not exactly sure how much the rates are going to go up. I don't think it's been finalized yet. But.
No, it hasn't.
So
Yeah, so.
again, this is why it's a months-long process.
Mm-hmm.
That was the electric was the only change from the tentative to the preliminary. Another change here. So the town hall generator, hopefully a one-time thing. The Time Warner Park remediation, hopefully a one-time thing. That's why you see zeros after that. But also because the town has a maintenance staff that does cleaning. The contracted custodian is not in the budget for next year. And that would be taken up by Park and Rec, oh, not Rec.
Is he
Park
aware of
staff.
that? Is he aware of that?
She?
It's not a he, it's a Laura Ricky, it's a woman.
Yeah, but I thought you just said that that was going to be eliminated and taken on by the park staff.
Right.
Oh, the park staff.
Are you asking
Yes,
if the
building-
groundskeeper?
Aware of that,
Yeah,
yes.
the buildings.
He actually
That was
Suggested
part of
presented
his
this
budget.
and suggested it to
I
us.
just want to make sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So anything further on 1620? Next would be 1660. This is the central storeroom. No major, no changes here from the tentative to the preliminary anticipated. Moving on, 1670. There was a question about postage. A lot of the postage gets used for tax collection purposes. And so a few $1,000s, I don't remember the exact amount, maybe the town clerk remembers, were put on in the later part of last year.
Right.
And that basically carried us through to just about now, and it was down to about $100. So the town clerk put 500?
Yeah,
500. $500. So you just don't, the bill hasn't been paid yet, that's why you don't see it
Right.
reflected here, but.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
But we know what that number is, don't we?
What?
We know what that year-to-date number is, don't we?
Well,
No, because it's,
We haven't written a check, but we ought to know what that number is.
right, so again, like I said, last year, money's put onto the postage meter, and it just basically gets debited from the postage meter every time
But
the meter
doesn't that
gets
give you a
used.
running tally of where you are with your expenditures?
Well, but the expenditure was in 2016 when we put the money on there. So the expenditure would again be.
My question is, can't you go in there today and find out the amount that we spent so far this year on postage?
I'm sure the town clerk,
I think
Maybe
we
Andrea
put
can do
5,000
that.
last time in the 2016, and that amount was just used up within the last month, and then we put 500 on just in the last month to carry us through until the budget was approved.
so we can look at it again,
That makes sense.
we can look at it
So
again.
we've used over 5,500 thus far, correct?
A little under 55.
No,
well.
no, I wouldn't say, because
No, 'cause it
we'd
was
have
part
to,
of
we'd have to look back to see
2016.
when that 5,000 was put on.
Right.
Say it was put on in
June
June of last year, it's been more than a year
Yeah.
to go through.
Year and a
I don't remember when it was put on, I don't know if you recall. I remember,
Well, that would help for
the former
budgeting
town
purposes.
clerk was still the town clerk, when that happened.
Right.
So she was explaining to
Before
the current town clerk and I about.
Yeah, so it was before
So it was
September of
more than
last
a
year. It was
year,
over a
because she
year
left in
ago.
September.
So again, we could, it's a valid point, we could look,
Right.
the town clerk and I can look at that and see what has been debited in a year's time. So that $4,000 number may need to go up.
Or down.
Or, yeah, or that.
Well, I
Probably
hope-
not down.
No, but next meeting, we ought to know
Probably
that.
not down,
Sure.
because postage cost just goes up.
It went up, it went down, believe it or not.
Oh, yeah, that's right, it did. But that rarely happens.
First time ever.
So, I wouldn't plan on that,
I know.
especially not repeating.
I'm sure it'll never happen again.
Okay. Anything further on 1670? 1675 is the Dutchess County chargebacks. So it cost the town last year $4,690.93. That's just for the service that the county provides for printing out all the tax bills
Right,
and
yeah.
everything involved with that. So the additional amount, why it's not just, say, 4,700 or something, is because There may also be actual, tax chargebacks where someone paid taxes, but their assessment got changed, so they should get some money back.
Yeah.
You don't know, we really don't know when we're budgeting as to what it might possibly be next year.
Could be
So,
tax surcharge.
for instance, for this year, it might end up being over $6,000. But then next year, there might not be anything, and then it's under,
Right.
it's back to whatever, $4,691, if that's what it's gonna cost again for just the service, so. So again, it's $0 year to date right now, just because it's something gets paid, in November or December, I think, maybe, I have to look. Not yet.
Right.
Okay. And once we have the bill, we can look back at that. Okay, 1680 is the central processing. This is essentially the old media budget, just with more involved in terms of computers and all the expenses that go along, breaking out all the expenses that go along with computers and technology, phones, all that.
Okay, so that's why it's spread around to like planning and zoning, because they use that equipment.
Well, what the town board voted on a year ago was the idea of having the planning and zoning board meetings taped.
Right,
So,
but it never happened.
didn't happen. So that's why with the recent budget amendment, you see that it's $0 there. And, hold on. Does someone have the paper? Because I did it formulaically, so when I turned this into 0, it turned everything else into 0.
Oh.
So what you have on here is, right, it should still be, $1297 and $1285. Okay.
We have a backup budget just in case.
I got a question. Why did we lower the salary on the media coordinator?
Looks like a 2% versus 1%.
Well, yeah, it was, that the request was for 2%, and the budget officer, the supervisor.
That's the number they request, that's the number we gave, that's what they used to get.
And also, this should be changed here, media assistant, town board meetings. It used to be budgeted for 2 people, it's currently budgeted for 1 person.
Right, that's true.
Not currently, I'm sorry, currently it's budgeted for 2 people.
Right.
The proposal is to budget it for 1 person. And there'll need to be some budget transfers, before the year is out here. The media staff has been utilized as IT staff for phones and computers and everything. So, I think a lot of that was, unanticipated from the town board last year. But what has been used less has been the contracted IT.
Right, outsourcing.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So,
We've saved a lot of money doing that.
if you, so again, if you look at the overall budget as it is right now, it's budgeted for $38,900, $32,054 has been spent year to date. This is as of the end of, and just so, if you look at this, you'll see that these numbers are different. This is to the end of September. I was able to update these numbers so that to the end of September. But I didn't want to kill another tree to print all out.
So I actually had a question on part of this. No?
That's what the public hearing's for.
No.
Yeah, or another.
Or you can
Well,
meet
he's a
with us
department
earlier.
head, isn't he? He's a department head.
Yeah, I mean, another department head asked, what should their role be in this, at this part of the process? What I suggested was, there's 3 weeks from when the town board adopts this to the public hearing, they could write a memo that everybody in the town board can
In
get.
the office, anytime you want, that.
Yep.
Or it's up to the town board as to how you want to handle it.
That's what I was asking.
'Cause I think, I don't, there's,
On my job, each department head meets with the town board at a town board meeting to go over their budget.
Or their liaison.
Yes.
So I'll meet with you later on.
Well, no, this is at a town board meeting.
like I said, it's up to, if there's 3 of you that want to talk with.
I mean, if he has a concern, I think we all should hear
I got a
it.
feeling I know what he's gonna say.
There's other department heads who,
Yeah.
there's no other department heads here.
That's fine.
Go ahead, Dave.
You know, I mean,
What do you want?
I'm just wondering, I wanted to ask him, are we gonna need a new computer next year? I know
Yes,
we've talked about it.
did not buy that this year because we're buying the audio equipment, and then the phone project came on.
Mhm.
We do need a computer.
So the funding's there right now to buy a computer in the next,
Like,
Couple
can we
months.
do it
Yeah.
before the year is out, since we
Yes.
did budget the money into this
Yep, we can do that.
calendar
Okay.
year?
And then my other question was, further down, the software.
Mhm.
Which one?
So just to, let me explain one thing. So this is where the tax collection software is,
Well, no, the maintenance.
and this is for, okay, this is where the tax collection software is now located, and this is where the town clerk licensing software is also located.
And the maintenance software is
So up
there.
here, maintenance software?
Yep. Is that for maintenance department or just maintenance on software that is used?
No, that's to pay for, to continue to use software.
Okay.
So, what would be,
Licensing fee?
Laserfiche would be a
Yeah.
bill that we would pay. What? Well, so I was able to break out these two. These are both VAS software for the tax collector and for the town clerk, these two here. So that's why you also see that this number is lower, because now the numbers for the software is here. We should look at this again, maybe this number should be a little higher. Because it's just for different software that the town uses, and when you buy the software, but then you have to just pay an annual fee to just, they update it, or.
Right, and it's more expensive when you first buy it,
Right.
but then it's less expensive.
Can I get a breakdown of what those are? The individual softwares?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I'm not sure if some of that might actually overlap with what the consultant is.
Okay.
All right.
Yep, no problem. Yeah, the way this is broken out is that the bills from the consultant were to be paid out of this line, and then just the cost of software was to be paid out of this line. And then again, you have mobile phones, desktop phones, the internet access to all three major buildings of the town,
Right.
miscellaneous. The website renewal, it was really more,
Why is that number so high?
which number?
The internet access. 3 buildings, you say, so we have 3 accounts?
Town
Highway,
hall,
park, and town hall.
Time War, and
And what are we paying? We should be paying somewhere around $75 a month.
Times 12, times 3.
yeah, so it's, for the three accounts, it's $424 a month, combined $424 a month
I get $2,700.
for what?
For the 3 for the year.
3 times 75 times 12.
But it's not, you're saying it's not $75.
Right, it's $424 a month.
A month
For the three
for all
buildings.
three.
From who?
Optimum.
Optimum.
I don't understand why there's so much.
So Steve, the
Because they don't have
reason
this
we
TV
that
package.
Is that we have a higher speed package that gives us the static IPs and allows the phones and the time clocks to work. So it's not just internet connectivity, we're also getting a dedicated IP address.
Security, right?
Correct. Well, that and usability of the new phone system, which
Right.
is more cost.
Okay.
Right. So I do just have a question about website renewal.
Yeah.
Was that not what we just did with the, like, GoDaddy domain?
Oh, so I was going to say,
That-
it was a little more than what, it was website and email, the town clerk.
Yeah,
Domain, the website, email,
yeah.
yeah, so it was just more than, website renewals, just, we had to give it some name, so. But this isn't,
Oh, you. okay,
this
you
doesn't need to be
added
done
year-
again for
You added year to.
5 years?
5 years, Andrea?
4 years.
4 years.
4 years? Okay.
Right, so it's.
So that's why it's 0 going forward.
I
Yeah.
apologize, I should have looked up because I didn't, mine was 0, but
Oh.
you already added year to date. So now you answered my
Yes,
question.
yes, yeah.
Gotcha.
just- right.
I should have looked up.
Yeah, it might not have had the year-to-date number there because,
I want to go back to
One
that
mistake.
miscellaneous line.
Mhm.
Why is your number there different than what I have on my paper?
uh,
I
but-
got near $3,000 as year to date.
Miscellaneous.
I'd have to-
2986 we have as year to date.
Yeah, we have 2986.
I think I was able to figure out, let me see,
Or did it go
Hold on.
somewhere else?
might be another formulaic issue. I'll have to look into that.
And what is that line used for? Is Ryan still here?
Yeah,
Do
he's
you know
right
what
there.
that line is used for?
The miscellaneous line?
You're right.
I'm not sure.
Just,
I would say.
I mean, anything that's just coded 1680.4.
Well, I'd like to move that back to 3,000.
Not,
Actually,
Well,
if that's year-to-date, we
Yeah.
should probably make it 3,500.
Actually, you know what, I think I might, no, this is 3,000 for the year to date.
Close to it, yeah.
That would be the phone system upgrade. That was
Oh,
the-
could be.
Right, so
Right.
that's.
And it's a one-time fee.
Do the system upgrade, including.
Well,
Oh,
there
and
you
we could-
have 3,809 for that.
well, no, that's for the
That's for mobile
ongoing
phones
cost
and
of mobile
tablets.
phones and tablets. I think what happened here, I'll have to look at the previous Excel document. I think what happened was, the way I had this set up was miscellaneous. This is what happened. Miscellaneous is anything that is not
Those things.
KV systems, not a software maintenance, not Verizon, not Magnify, not Optimum. So that's why if you look up here, this is all of it minus from this line, from this line, from this line, from this line. So I think what happened was when I updated this with the updated year-to-date numbers in these spots, it ended up changing this number. So for instance, I can look back, I can fix that. We paid another bill for Verizon. So if I get rid of that, you should see that the miscellaneous now goes up. So it was just something I did formulaically. I'll have to look back at the number there.
And then for desktop phones, 2018 will be significantly less.
Right.
So the number that you had there was, what was the miscellaneous number you had there?
2986.
All right, so let me, it's going to be 2986 plus something. So I'll have to figure out, I'll just put a little kind of marker there. I'll have to go back and just check on that. Thank you.
That way, just in case.
Anything further on 1680? 1910 is insurance. Any questions on insurance? The insurance gets paid, in the last 3 months of the year.
Yeah.
And we don't pay.
Is that based on what we saw presented to us tonight?
No,
This is liability, not health.
Oh, liability.
Everything but health.
We've gotten quotes for that amount then?
Well, it's still NYMER.
Still never, yeah.
Unless we change.
Comptroller says that's something
Have we checked into that?
should check into every 3 to 5 years.
Okay.
Well, last year, the town board did look into insurance. I know Councilman
Yes.
McMorris,
Yeah.
and maybe others, worked on that, and went with Spain agency to
Yes.
provide NYMER.
For
NYMER, yeah.
Well, they're
Or
the.
Brown and Brown acting as Spain,
Yeah.
or Spain acting as Brown
Yes.
and Brown, I don't know. They're all,
Spain.
everything's got a different name.
Yeah.
Did anyone ask NYMER whether they anticipate a rate increase?
Well, it put in an extra $1,000. I mean, there hasn't been any, the reason for the extra $1,000 is because we added on vehicle.
Well, I mean, when I
That's okay.
prepare my budget at work, I call all my contractors that are under the contractual expense and ask them if they anticipate any increases for the next year, so I can put an accurate number in my budget. If we haven't done that, how do we have accurate numbers here?
Well, there's no indication that these numbers should really
Why
change.
wouldn't they? Everything else goes up.
Well, no, NYMER insurance is rather stable, and it tends to only go up if you
And if
add
you
on
make the wrong
buildings and
assumption,
vehicles.
at the end of the year, we've got a problem. All it is a phone call.
I'll call NYMER tomorrow. I'll call state
Thank you,
agency
Councilman.
tomorrow.
All right, 1920, municipal dues, $100 to the Association of Towns. What is it? 1950, taxes on property.
Yep, Beekman.
This
Town
is
of
what
Beekman.
the town of Unionville pays to the town of Beekman for some properties. So the town of Unionville just paid the school property tax
Yeah.
on that parcel. The estimate of 7,700 was really close. Ended up being 7,688 for the year. So originally, the supervisor and I put in 7,800, just, again, not really knowing what it would be, but just based on a recent Town of Beekman town board meeting I watched, their taxes may be going up 10 or 9 or 13 or I don't know, some percentage. And the school is likely, so the reason it went from 7,700 to 7,800 is anticipating, well, school will go up or something will go up, but.
Yeah.
So that's why I tagged this yellow, because it might make more sense for it to just be 8,000. And then it's, you know, it'll cost what it costs.
Yes, I agree.
Anything further on 1950? And again, this, when and if the town sells that property that is for sale, this expense would go.
Disappear, yep.
Well, I'm sorry, almost all this expense would go away. There's still the fire tax on, I believe, all the Beekman.
All the time
all the
warp
Beekman.
Yeah, the time
in
warp.
Beekman,
Yeah,
yes.
yes. So most of this would go away.
Can I ask Tom a quick question on this? Does that give our residents any rights in Beekman that everyone in Unionville really pays Beekman property taxes?
What kind of rights, you mean as far as using?
Using any of their
facilities?
facilities?
They pay fire district
We
tax?
Yeah.
pay fire tax.
Yeah.
That's a fire district, so I don't think.
Okay.
they give-
All right, just
because it's
curious.
Specific.
Yes,
Yeah,
okay.
there's one parcel out on Route 55 that's in the town of Beekman, and that's the reason for the
Yeah.
the
So now we
the
pay
$5,616.
We pay
Yeah.
all taxes.
We pay
Yeah,
pay
school
commercial
tax.
property
All tax on
tax to
Yeah.
the town of Beekman.
So if that parcel was sold, this number would go away, and then this 2,071.39 would be greatly diminished, because then you'd
Right.
only be paying fire tax
Fire tax
on
on
park
just
property.
open land.
On
Yeah.
the dam, basically,
Oh,
right on the
Anything
other
that's
side of the
anything
dam.
that's in Beekman,
Yeah.
there's a few parcels.
Well, actually, the line's before the dam,
Yeah,
about 3/4 of the way down down the lake there. Somebody
So,
stole
yeah.
the medallion that we used to have on the ground.
Right. So it's not that the $8,000 cost would necessarily just disappear, but it would be somewhere in the hundreds of dollars.
Yeah, much
Right.
cheaper.
If that was gone. 1989, the MTA. This one just came up today, and that's why it's being changed.
Wow.
Because
What kind of
the payroll clerk was working on the MTA tax. If you have payroll in a 3-month, in a quarter, first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter, by a quarter, that exceeds a threshold that the New York State legislature established, then you have to pay some percentage of the MTA tax. And so then the different percentages depend on how much your payroll is. Let me see, MTM. Yeah, so here I can bring this over. So in the quarters where the town's payroll is under $312,500, the town pays no MTA payroll tax, which is 3 of the 4 quarters. The quarter that the town pays MTA payroll tax is the summer quarter because of all the additional employment. And so what happened today was that they did the calculation. The payroll clerk, and then actually the former payroll clerk came in, did the calculation, and so the payroll for those 3 months came to $438,069. So $569 over the threshold. So that's why we have to pay an additional $500-something in the tax. So it was, oops, didn't want to get rid of that one. Hold on. Give me a second.
Kind of a loophole we fell into.
Well, yeah. Because last year, so the reason that it was budgeted for 920 is because last year we paid something around 920. Because last year, for that 3-month period, it was 420 something or 430 something, but within the middle part of the scale here. So just because we went a little over, so just again anticipating that that could happen again.
And 1,500 is a safe number.
Yeah, so it ends up costing, give me a second here. I don't remember the exact amount from today, but it was a little less than 15. It was 1,400 something. So 1,500. Because of all the employees who take the train to work. Yeah.
And then somehow get from the train station magically here.
Okay. 1990 is the contingent budget. So again, remember that at the beginning of this year, this was $135,000. $130,000, sorry. And as the year progressed, this amount here was for, if you look at the top, near the top of the screen, this amount here was, the $73,081 was because of the remediation.
Yeah.
The $30,465 was because of the generator. The $1,400 was for the Dutchess County SPCA. The $1,250 is escaping me at the moment. It was from a couple months ago. I don't know what it was for. Maybe for the.
Was that the website renewal?
No. For the.
Whatever.
Real estate appraisal on the property
Real
in
estate
Beekman.
on the property
Yes.
so we could sell it.
Oh, that's right.
That's
Yeah.
So, there. So, in years past, the contingency fund, I believe, has been about $35,000. It was $35,000 in 2016. The budget that was adopted in 2015 for 2016
Yeah,
had a contingency of $35,000.
13,500. So wait, 216 is 13,500 for continuing.
I don't believe so. Let me see. Let me bring that up.
Okay, I don't need to hold you up.
No. Want to be accurate, so. You were correct, 13,500. So what was I don't remember where I got 35,000. Anyway. Yes, you were correct. Okay, so again, the reason you don't see any actual or any year-to-date here is because nothing actually gets spent out of the contingency fund. The money just gets moved to another fund and then spent out of there. So 45,000 is here. You know, again, you don't know what's going to happen. I mean, the remediation. When we made $130,000, I thought, wow, maybe something will happen. We'll spend $30,000 and there'll be $100,000 sitting there. And now we're down to about 23,000 because that remediation and the generator were a lot. So again, the town board could decide 45,000 is too much, it's too little. It's up to the majority of you.
Well, we were lucky we had a lot in there last year.
Yeah.
Because heaven knows what can come up all of a sudden.
I kind of feel like with our catastrophes, like we have, we need to plan for them. So maybe looking at, maybe not 130,000, but maybe looking at 100,000. We can always transfer from a different budget line that hasn't been spent if we need to as well. But kind of having a little more robust contingency just so that we're not sitting in a place of emergency. It was great that we had this. We didn't need to borrow any money. We didn't need to look into anything else.
I mean, it seems like kind of a strange one-off thing that there was this massive cleanup.
Yeah,
that
we're
needed to
certainly not
happen.
going to get another generator.
And we're certainly not going to remove vermiculite again because it's gone.
Right.
Well, do we know it doesn't exist anyplace else?
But we have, all those
Well,
barns.
I know it doesn't exist here, and I know it doesn't exist in the highway garage or recycling, so
And they got rid
I
of
think
it
that's a
anyway.
reasonable assumption.
Yeah, I agree with Councilwoman Kelly that more is better in this case.
Like,
It's for the unknown, and we didn't anticipate the big expenditures we had this past year.
In years past, as former town supervisor correctly said, it was 13,500. So.
And that seemed like a safe number in years past.
Yeah, but on the other hand, we do have good
On the other
insurance.
hand, we do have good insurance.
we do, that was good. Paid for half.
All right. So
Yeah.
So I would say make it 50,000.
It's a reasonable increase.
I'll agree with that.
I'll go along with it.
3 people
Okay.
said 50,000.
50,000.
Okay. All right. Moving on from there to 31.
Let me ask you a quick question, though. How did we end up with 130,000 in that contingency budget to start with?
Like, why was it so much?
Yeah, how did it end up being that much?
Well, because when we...
From 13.5 to 130,000.
Right. When we figured all the expenses and all the revenues, to not make it 130,000 would have meant, instead of a 4 or 5% tax increase, the tax decrease. The tax decrease would have been, I forgot exactly, 8 or 9 or 10 or 11. It would have been a much bigger tax decrease. So the thinking was at the time,
Keep the money within.
have a tax decrease like the town board voted on, but
Still
have $130,000 there, thinking like, well, maybe you spend 30 and then you have $100,000 and you don't need it, so then you could, use money, that would just go into the fund balance, doesn't get used, so then you could use fund balance money to offset the budget and, have more of a tax decrease. It was really just, because the concern was, and I guess it made a lot of sense, there could have been a 10 or 11 or 12% tax decrease, and then the town board might have been saying, oh, I really wish we had a big contingency fund, now we might have to raise taxes this year.
Or we would have had to go out for financing for the.
Right, or go out for financing, that was considered.
Right.
It was
Right,
considered.
Right, because we didn't know if we were gonna get the insurance money back, so we might have to have gone for,
In time,
like a ban.
And they
kind of
were
a-
good. They got it back
Yep. that's
Yeah.
great.
So-
rather quickly.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, 3120. So with just a couple, with this budget, a number of the like rec budgets, the employees are just the year to date where it says 0. It's for court for like special events and stuff. It's not really 0. It's just it's all paid out of this budget, and so the payroll clerk would have had to have figured out, well, it was 2 hours from court and it was, 3 hours from this patrol and 3 hours from that patrol.
Right.
So going forward, it's all going to be, all the constable stuff is going to be back under the constable budget rather than having some over in the court budget. And again, like I said, these are just, estimates based on actual numbers, but it doesn't necessarily have to be broken out into, well, how much of it was court, or how much of it was special events, or how much of it was training. It's, the numbers that are there are, because for like the constable patrols, you anticipate that there'll be 775 hours a year of constable patrols, 365 days a year, 2 hours a day. And then I think there's a little bit extra in there because of special detail.
Yeah.
Where sometimes they work more than 2 hours.
Yeah.
And so it's $16 an hour and then with a 1% increase. Okay. And then for the court, it's, excuse me, there's free constable, court meets 3 times a month for 12 months. There's 3 constables, they work 2.5 hours at a time for $16 an hour plus, not plus, but then with a 1% increase.
Right.
So that's how this all gets figured out. Special events, 76 hours with the wages. Training, $16 an hour. I guess the number should really be reversed, but so 100 hours of training because there's 5 constables, 20 hours of training for each constable. And so anyway, so there's that. There's the constable vehicle, which that gets paid quarterly. That was the last payment for this year. It was due in November. We just paid it recently. And then the expenditures now.
Why haven't we spent any money on training?
That was, again, the hours were taken out of the constable patrol hours. They were paid in patrol hours.
Or does he mean the bottom?
Well, it says, yeah, it says there's money there, but none of it's been used. And I know there's annual training requirements.
I don't think we've gotten the bill from Tim Kraft yet.
There's that, but like I just explained, so again, looking forward, it would be that these are estimates as to what it'd be for patrols, for court, for special events, and for training, so.
I'm talking about this year, not next year.
The
Right.
year-to-date.
And in total, you have this amount for the total of constable work. And so the payroll clerk doesn't have it broken out in terms of, well, this was for patrols, this was for special
Yeah,
events.
I think he's looking further down.
The training.
Yeah.
Well, it's both, I mean, it's in both sections. There's zero spent on training.
We did have training already, right, Dave?
Yes, all the training.
It was just a case of the bill doesn't get processed.
They have 5 hours of training left to do, and usually
Okay.
Tim gives us the
Bill when it's
the
complete.
bill
Right,
when
when
it's
it's all done.
complete.
Okay, that's what I thought.
So, I mean, that would be the,
It's coming.
Yeah, something to look forward to.
You mean down here? Constable training.
Bill's in the mail.
So the answer is that the bill hasn't been paid yet.
For the 2250.
Correct.
Hasn't arrived yet.
Yeah, the bill hasn't arrived yet. And they haven't bought any ammunition.
Good.
Good to know.
Oh, I think that's part of that might be part of the training. I think they,
what?
Oh,
they use ammunition
Buying
as part of the
ammunition.
training,
Yeah.
that's why there's a line for
Ah.
ammunition.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Now, did the officer in charge prepare this department budget?
Most
Yeah.
of it, yes.
Yes.
And, he and I sat down.
So he agrees with these numbers?
Yes.
Right.
All except for the number.
So-
Yeah.
And speaking with Councilman McMorris, that's why it's tab yellow down here, and the number for constable patrols has an additional $500. Councilman McMorris said, well, could we pay the constable in charge an extra $1 per hour? And I said,
I agreed with
one,
that.
that's up to the town
Yeah.
board, and two, that's something you should budget for, but then you'd vote on what the actual wage would be at the organizational meeting in
Yeah,
January.
Right.
So, but you should budget the additional money if you're going to
So we
pay.
did.
So you have it. Yeah.
17,
that
17 something an
and
hour.
that recommendation actually came from the officers that work with him.
Not him.
I understand that.
So
but
he doesn't know that part.
I'd like the attorney to look into whether that's permissible by the state. I think we looked into that one time before and learned that the state laws prohibit that.
I'll look into
I'm
that.
not opposed to it, but,
I'll get you.
yeah, I seem to recall that that wasn't permitted because we had looked into doing that before.
What's not permitted? A raise?
The
The
stipend.
constable in charge.
Oh, really?
I think, I'm
Well, that's-
pretty sure when,
I don't think it was gonna be a stipend. It's
I want to
gonna
understand your question, though, Councilman Fisher.
yes.
The way I understood it, it was an hour, $1 hourly, higher
Higher salary.
rate.
Right, yeah.
Not a stipend, I just
Yeah.
want to make sure.
be- That's what
Right.
Councilman McMorris was saying. That next year, the
Not a stipend for doing the work.
constables who aren't in charge would get $16.60 an hour, and the constable in charge would get $17.60 or $17.70
Well,
an
like I
hour.
said, I'm on board if this all meets the state requirements. I'd
I'll
just
see.
like to be sure of that.
If it can be done and how it needs to be done.
Okay. I just, like I said, we've been down this road before, and I seem to recall that the state didn't allow it, but I may be wrong. I may be wrong.
Okay. All right, anything further on 3120? Okay. 3310, no more traffic control signs, so move on. 3510, this is for the dog control officer.
Where did that line move to 3310? Isn't that traffic signs?
Oh, it was just that there was, it's not something that was funded this year. The only reason it's in here is because there was an expense in 2016 of $44.
One time only.
So do we not have anything for highway department to replace signs? Is that
In the
what
highway
this?
department.
It's in the
This
highway,
is highway.
it's in the highway department.
In
We're
D
not
fund.
in the D fund yet.
Right, we're in A fund.
I believe,
I'm just trying to track this, that's
sure. I
all.
believe in the past it was funded at $100 or $200 a year. All right, so 3510, dog control. Any questions?
No, 1% raise, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Straightforward.
3620, There's safety inspections, the building inspector. So again, a 1% raise based on what it currently is.
Right.
And the portable printer is still in there because the building inspector didn't believe he was going to be buying the portable printer this year, but thought he might still look to buy it next year. So, again, if this $600 doesn't get spent, it just becomes part of the fund balance. And
Yeah,
and just
okay.
$600.
Okay.
So, and then the rest of it.
Is that the same story with the fireproof cabinet?
When I talked with him again about that, and you, Councilman Fraser, you asked something 2 weeks ago about with the revenue. It was I did the next day. I talked with the building inspector. I just couldn't remember at the moment what we had as a conversation. So he submitted the department budget here, and then for the revenue, I went back to him. I said, looking at it, 85,000.
Right.
Previous year, it looks like it's gonna be 85,000. This year, are you okay with it being 80? And he said yes.
You said that
I just
you went
wasn't
to
sure.
him after the meeting?
No. Well, I confirmed with him the next day that we had in fact spoke 2 weeks earlier or something about, are you okay with this being 80,000? And he said
Right.
yes. I remember that. So he didn't put in for the fireproof file cabinet. I don't.
Yeah.
Either he's not looking to buy it at all, or he's looking to buy in the next 3 months.
Oh, that's true.
I think he's looking to get all those filing cabinets out of there.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things he's discussed, I know that it's been discussed with the,
Electronic.
yeah,
Electronic.
with the town clerk is to scan stuff and get rid of paper. And, yeah. All right, anything else on 3620? All right, 4020 registrar is, gets paid at the end of the year to the town clerk.
Yeah,
as a registrar.
registrar of vital statistics.
So that has a 1% increase. 5010, the highway superintendent. So he put in a request to be paid $75,000. The supervisor put in a 1% increase from the current salary. And then the rest of it.
Where are the employees?
Well, the highway employees are under, they're in the D fund. This is the A fund.
Still in the A fund.
The
Yeah.
A fund.
He's elected, so he's in
Yeah.
the A fund.
Anything further on 5010? 5132 is for the highway garage. I mean, no changes from the tentative budget. The maintenance and repairs on the garage is, not hardly anything. So, just the estimate for next year went from 5 to 4. The fuel looks like it's going to be more than, 8. So for next year, big 9. And miscellaneous, is 1406 for 3/4 of the year. So that being 7, 3. And then the supervisor added in $1,000 for security. Okay, 6140 is,
Brian, where's 5130? Machinery, highway?
that's the D fund. This is the
Yes,
A
we're
fund.
not-
6140 is the Community Action Partnership of Dutchess County, $1,800.
Right, they help a lot of people.
Any questions there?
And every year we agree to.
Yes, they help fund them.
6772 is not used anymore. That's where the senior program used to be.
Yep.
Now it's in the adult recreation. Okay. All right, so 7020. All right, so The recreation director and the head groundskeeper are paid out of this budget. In speaking with the recreation director and the head groundskeeper, the recreation director, we met, the supervisor and I met with them together, met with them separately. The recreation director wanted to be paid a salary and proposed this salary that you see in the department column. The head groundskeeper wanted to be paid hourly with the chance for overtime because he gets called in when it snows or a tree's down or something.
Right, yeah, makes sense.
So, this is what the department request was for the recreation director, head groundskeeper, and then the overtime for the head groundskeeper down here. And so the supervisor put in a 3% increase for the recreation director with the understanding that it would be salary. And head groundskeeper got a 1% increase with the opportunity to earn
Make
overtime.
that would be an hourly.
So, again, what people get paid is up to the town board. This next line, recreation, this parks and recreation assistant. So this is a, excuse me, the recreation assistant / program director. This would be the same person.
Right.
It's just, it's a different title, that's why it's in a different spot. So the recreation assistant / program director, the department request was this, was $20 an hour for it to be a full-time position. So the supervisor put in $17.50, which is just about a 3% increase from what the person presently makes. And the idea was, so it's not full-time, it's not a full-time position now. And so the idea would be it would be a full-time position. And then also it's been changed, instead of recreation assistant to parks and recreation assistant, because in speaking with both the recreation director and the head groundskeeper, this person helps out both of them. So it's really, really an assistant to both of them, not just to the recreation director.
Yeah.
Okay. And then for the recreation secretary, what you see here is an increase in the wage by 1% is what the supervisor put in, but also an increase in the hours.
Where are we seeing that? Because I'm seeing zeros.
Parks and Recreation Secretary?
You're
not on the seasonal secretary, all right.
Parks and Recreation Secretary.
Parks and Recreation, excuse me, some more. Parks and Recreation Secretary works 20 hours a week all year long. So the request was that this person would work additional hours for 13 weeks.
Busy peak.
13 weeks of the year, like that, May, June, July, or June, July, August. So an additional, instead of 20 hours those weeks, would work 30 hours those weeks.
And then the idea was the recreation director eliminated the seasonal secretary and gave those hours to the Parks and Recreation Secretary.
Oh, okay.
So we're not gonna have a seasonal secretary anymore?
I'm not gonna force her.
No, I'm just curious. I'm asking, I'm
That's
not
what she wanted, yeah.
criticizing.
This is what the department submitted.
Yeah.
So
Just curious.
we're going with what the department submitted.
So yeah, again, this becomes zero. The recreation assistant / program director, like I said before, this becomes zero because it's moved up to this new title of Parks and Recreation Assistant.
Right.
All right. And then facility rental staff. I don't believe anybody's actually been paid for this. It was just my recollection from a year ago is that it was meant for if the regular staff, it was something on a weekend, the regular staff couldn't be there, you'd pay somebody
to come
and just
so someone was there.
open the place, open
right.
the big meeting room, close the big meeting room.
Right, and it didn't have to happen because the rec director lives down there, and
Right.
she was actually doing
Yeah,
it.
she was
Right.
overlapped.
So that's why it's just reduced to $1,000, because it doesn't get
Yeah,
used.
good idea.
you know. And then the overtime for the head groundskeeper. Okay. So just anything on the .1 for 7020?
No.
Okay. The online recreation management program, I was just moved down to .4. It's a continuing maintenance. It probably should be moved to the 1680 budget, just because it is, you know, software.
Yes.
So this was to originally purchase it, but it costs the same every year. Essentially, it's not really, I guess, a purchase. It's just kind of like a rental of the software.
Okay.
And then also there was a request put in by the department for a passenger van. So the department request there of $8,000 would have been the first of 5 payments for the Parks and Recreation to own or Recreation to own a passenger van. So the supervisor didn't include that.
Okay.
And all the little acronyms there for the after-school program, the, thank goodness there's time more, and kids camp, and then seniors.
I probably fell asleep. It's 4735, and then down here is 4375.
I'll have to look at that.
I'll have to wake up then.
Thank you for waking up. I'll have to look at that. It might just be the number got transposed. It might be that the maintenance is 4375. I'll have to check.
Okay.
Let me put a little marker there. Turn this one back to orange. Okay. And then just everything else in .4 for the recreation administration. Any questions?
Is that enough money in the background checks?
Well, that's for volunteer background checks. The employees pay for their own background check out of their wages. So, but if you're a volunteer, you don't get paid, so then
Can't
the town,
take it out of your salary.
yeah, it's nothing. You want to pay for it.
But, you know, my question was, is that enough money to do that?
We have to trust that our rec director is.
That's for.
Yeah, a lot of them
trying to
come back
remember
every
how much it
year,
costs.
so it's not like you gotta check a whole
Right.
bunch new ones.
I mean, that would fund at least 5 people, it might be 10 people. I mean, it's just whatever they
I think it's
said.
like
they
$15
felt they had.
$15 a person.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe it was 10 people.
So that's almost 11.
Right. And it wasn't even in our amended budget of 2017, or we didn't spend
Right,
it
this
year
is
to
the,
date.
this was the
so
first year it was really done.
Right.
Covers it.
Yeah.
Anything further on 7020? Let's do this. Okay. All right, 7110.1 and 2. So again, everyone here getting a, so again, this stuff at the top here is left over from changing over everything in the budget in last year's process. The maintenance worker, who's been here for, how many years now? 13?
14.
14. Maintenance helper, full-time, he's been here for
16.
a few years. The maintenance helper, part-time, this would be the weekend person. This would be the person that would be cleaning the hall like they clean the other facilities
Yes.
on the property. And then increased weeks of having a maintenance helper seasonal. So making it $15 an hour, full-time for 25 weeks. So for a 25-week season, whatever the head groundskeeper decides is the best use of that. And then new maintenance helper, and then overtime just for the maintenance worker and the maintenance helper that's full-time. In case, again, it snows or some tree comes down or
Sure,
something.
something unexpected.
Right. Okay, any questions on point 1? Okay, point 2, Continuation of paying for the parks pickup with plow, other expenditures, and then new expenditures would be for a 2018 large area four-wheel drive mower. So having a down payment and then working out what, doing some kind of lease would be over 5 years for a mower. So this mower costs around $46,000, and then with just some interest over the years. This is not a normal looking mower.
Right. Large scale mower.
Yeah.
Large scale mower.
Save a lot
Large
of
area
hours.
mowers. Yeah. Any questions on 7110.1 or .2? Uh, 7110.4. No changes from the tentative budget. Any questions?
I just want to point out to Steve that even signage is in the middle of this, so if Parks and Rec needs signage, they have theirs in addition to Highway.
Questions?
No.
None. Hold on. 7140.1 and 2 is youth recreation. This is just to pay staff for the different things that are covered under the .4. And then some new things here. Youth adaptive equipment is equipment to help
2,500, yeah.
people who need some adaptation. And then the tech equipment update is for the different programs that they have at the park. Essentially when, kids are there for after school program or PGTT or whatever might be going on, and there's inclement weather, so they're cooped up inside. It's things to for them to utilize indoors. Any questions? 7140.1 and .2. Okay. 7140.4, these are the youth rec programs. No major changes here. Any questions? Okay. And a few new programs, nature special events, homeschool.
Yeah, Adaptive
Adaptive
ACOM was
ACOM.
very successful earlier this year.
Right. 7141.1 and .2. So this is the up-to-date number as to just all the, I'm sorry, this is for summer camps. So this is the up-to-date number as to what all the .1 costs. If someone is particularly interested, take some time, but getting the breakout of each individual person, that could all be filled in here. But the important number is that it's $117,233 when it was budgeted for $139,859. And I think part of that was staff. Not so much that there was less staff working there, but staff worked there in part less because of there was less students enrolled in the different camps. Again, in part because the thinking is of the remediation. So I think while there's a decline in revenue, there's also this decline in expenditures. Okay. So then, and then you can see the numbers going forward into what's proposed for 2018. Okay. Any questions? Okay. And the .2, there was a proposal from the department to have a low ropes course added into the park somewhere. And the supervisor didn't put that in the tentative budget. It's up to the town board.
I'd like to hear from the department head on that.
Okay. So right now the numbers say 0?
0.
All right, 7141.4. Again, so this is all the contractual stuff for the summer camps. So the things that are continuing are here at the top. The newer things are at the bottom. So you see them as zeros for the amended budget, but something in the department budget, amended budget, preliminary budget. Any questions? 7141.4.
Well, I'm a little concerned about how high the numbers are getting. The $9,000.
From 46.8 to
Yeah.
55.1.
Yeah, that's quite strong. Especially since our revenue seems to be going down from the park.
Well, that's kind of why I didn't think about that rope course for 15,500.
Yeah, I can see your point there.
We're helping them to try and, you know, give more services and maybe make more revenue here. We can't justify giving 15,500 for a new rope course.
Right, yeah.
So, I
Not to
mean, I'm
mention
trying
insurance
to, not to mention insurance and liability.
Supervision.
Oh, yeah, that's what I thought it was meaning when I saw
Supervision
that.
and more people.
Yeah.
And more workers
Yes,
and.
we're requiring
and the whole-
Not to mention more
Right.
policing it if someone's not around.
Right, requirements,
Our
everything.
constables would have to be around.
So-
Park's not.
I wanted to actually meet them in the middle.
Okay,
Is
just
why
curious.
I agreed with some of
Okay.
this.
We're getting there.
All right.
The other question I have is, what's the on-site camp activities for $4,000 that wasn't there before?
Right. So the camp is broken up into 2-week sessions, 4 2-week sessions. So every other week, there's a field trip.
Yeah.
So this would be the other week
Off, yeah.
where there's not a field trip. So for instance, this year they brought in somebody, I remember, just so you could see them from town hall. They brought in somebody who had all these different sized roller skates, and kids at camp
Yes.
were roller skating for an afternoon.
Different activities
So, and the weeks that aren't,
for people to be brought in.
you know, where there's not a field trip.
So if I'm reading it correctly from the revenue page, our camps brought in $241,000. So we're talking about putting $55,000 towards it.
Well, no, plus the,
I mean, and that's not even like breaking down, that's not,
Yeah,
that's
so-
just picking a number.
yeah, as of right now, so the summer camp preliminary expenditures for point 1 and, well, just really point 1, it's not point 2. It's 147,201 for the personnel, and
Right.
then 55,129 for the
Right.
contractual.
We're
So
still.
you're looking at $202,330.
Okay.
So we still make a little money, even if we stay down, because this was the revenue from this year.
Yeah, again, you know, the operation of these camps, the sense I've gotten is that they should pay for themselves.
Self-funded.
And then,
Yes,
and
oh,
then
yeah.
some, because
Hopefully.
And then some.
if there was no summer camps, then maybe you wouldn't need a recreation assistant or something.
Of
You know,
course, right.
you would need other administrative
The whole
staff to help
staff.
out.
Right, we
So-
didn't maintain the
Yeah.
park at the exact same,
Right.
Level, yeah.
you know,
So,
keeping
yeah.
ticks and
Mhm.
whatever.
so, yeah. 7141.4, anything else?
Nope, very informative.
7142, this is for the after-school program. Again, so, you know, year-to-date, including September, it's $23,000 for personnel. It's budgeted for $34,306. And then there's .4 expenditures. Any questions on 7142? 7143. is the TGTT program. These are the days where there aren't school.
Right, the kids have to go somewhere.
Right.
Parents love them.
So again, year-to-date is 10,863, personnel budget of 14,091. And there's no other, they just, they use all the other, whatever's there at the park. Inside and outside. So there's no other expenditures. Okay. 7180 is the pool. Again, so the personnel came to 75,697. It was budgeted for 77,135. And then there's an addition here of a pool chairlift. Again, going for more adaptability.
Right.
And then just the rest of the contractual for the pool. And again, some of this miscellaneous probably does go in some of these other categories. It was just tough for me to determine how, what category some of these expenditures may go in.
Is that the installed price on that chairlift?
That you would have to ask the rec director.
I believe that
She gave us the-
I think, well, I might have, I'm trying to remember. The recreation director and the head groundskeeper share different aspects of the pool because there's personnel for the pool, which the recreation director handles. And
Yeah. And
it's
also
a facility, so the head groundskeeper handles that. So I don't actually remember who.
And
which
that
one of
might
them said
be
the pool
what
chairlift.
it costs in addition to what we get for a grant.
I
Because
think-
there's gonna be a grant application for that.
Just seems like a low number for a commercial grade chairlift.
Yeah, I don't think that's the whole cost. I think the grant,
Right, and
that's what the
that's
grant's
what-
not gonna cover.
That's what she
Mm-hmm.
put in for, so.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think when I was discussing it with them, it's not necessarily the top of the line either. It was, let's get one that can be safe and fulfill our needs, and then if we get out, 5 years from now, and it's really like.
It's a good thing to
like,
have.
oh, wow, everybody needs this thing,
I'll need it in 5 years myself.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, theoretically, if you make it handicap accessible, then more people with handicaps can come. Then we may need to look at then venturing into a much more, mechanical or, top grade version. This would be safe, it would fit our needs, it would be reasonable.
Anything further on 7180?
Nope.
7181 is concession stand. They need an ice machine.
Yeah.
So that's new.
I'm looking at operating costs.
Right.
Year to date, and that's September, correct?
Yep.
When does their programming end?
It's over.
It's over.
It's over?
It was over
Yeah, it's over Labor Day, yeah.
All right.
And this is one of those things where, say the concession stand gets really popular, so you need to spend more money on buying food, you're gonna make money on selling the food. So you'd have more,
Yeah.
if you have more anticipated expenditure here, you naturally should have more anticipated
On your
revenue
revenue
that goes
side.
with it.
How much do we take in from the concession stand profit?
I believe they're still going through the
Yeah, we
numbers.
still got vouchers to process.
Yeah, so,
Mr. Thomas came up yesterday.
yeah. So I haven't reviewed what the last dollar amount was, it just came to the town clerk's office yesterday.
And I don't think she's had a chance to count it up and get it ready
Yeah,
for the
they've
bank.
been in over their head.
So anything further on 7181? 7182, equestrian director. Again, there was a equestrian adaptive equipment was put into the budget, along with paying the equestrian director, who's also the seasonal secretary,
No longer needs
more money.
Is she gonna retain that position, Patty? Do you know?
What, the equestrian director?
Yeah.
She wanted to, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
This
mean,
is
as
the
long as
position
she
she
wants to
wants.
continue doing it.
Right,
yeah.
I'm saying she's still gonna continue that.
Right, and she'll
Yes.
get a 1% raise just like
Yeah,
everybody else.
right, okay.
And
That's what she
the
So-
adaptive equipment and everything else.
So along with the adaptive equipment is a contractual for what they said to put into the budget was therapeutic programming. And then this line here for horse pull, the reason that this is here is because there wasn't certainty that the horse pull that happens on Community Day would happen on Community Day. So you see a reduction of $1,000 in the community
Right,
budget.
Community Day, put it here separate.
Because maybe the horse pull will still be on Community Day, but maybe it won't be.
It
And
may
then
be another day.
this way, it could still be done.
Right.
It could just be done any
But
day.
separate the funds out.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
That was the explanation we were given. Anything further on 7182? Okay, 7410, the library.
Pretty straightforward.
Yeah,
pretty straightforward.
So it's a 2% increase
Contract.
over what
Yep.
was paid this year. Anything further? 7510, the historian. So like I was saying earlier, records manager, historian, we'll figure this out before the end of the year. The historian will get paid what she's supposed to get paid.
Yeah.
And then maybe the records manager, the town clerk will get paid $200 something.
$32 and 16.
2016. That's the number I had when I put it.
Okay.
And there's no other expenditures there. So. Okay. 7550 celebrations. This is miscellaneous contractual, American flags for Memorial Day.
Yeah, I think that's what we do. We pay for that.
7560 special events. There's nothing here anymore.
Right.
This part of this was moved to the celebration. 7620 is adult recreation. Looking at the expenses, best I can determine them year to date for what you would categorize as the seniors. It looks like it should be more than what was requested and what was budgeted by the supervisor. Or the town board could, again, discuss this with the seniors as to what should be the dollar amount, what's planned down there. With the head of the seniors program. And then there's also volleyball and a new adult program.
Okay.
So instead of 6,000, what you see in the budget there for the preliminary budget is the number is 7,000 because it looks like it's going in that direction. Uh, 7989 is the actual special events budget. So the addition of Community Day staff and October Day staff in this budget.
Yes.
And then the expenses that go along with Festival of Lights, Community Day, and Oktoberfest. And I don't believe all the expenses and all the revenue, I don't believe has been counted, maybe as of yesterday. I don't know if the town clerk might know.
Yeah, Jessica gave us a statement.
Okay.
So I'm seeing a shortfall then for Community Day with the tentative number.
Yeah, because it's gonna be the horse pull.
Yeah.
It's taken out.
The horse
It's a separate
pull was taken
line.
out?
Yeah.
And it was put into the
Okay.
equestrian budget.
Ryan answered
For
that
1,200.
question when I sent in my budget questions. The answer was $1,000 was taken from Community Day budget, put in the equestrian budget as $1,260 for the horse pull, which may or may not. happen.
Yeah, Jessica sent a memo that,
I get it, I get it.
217.
Okay, he's got it.
Great.
2017.
Any other questions on 7989?
You're right. Well, he's just reporting the
We
revenue.
made, according to her, we made 11,208
Yes, that's right.
profit.
All right. Okay, 7989.
Yep.
8010 is the zoning board. Any questions?
No?
8020 is the planning board. Any questions? 8160 is the recycling center. We see additional here is recycling center equipment of $7,000. The question was asked by Councilwoman Kelly. That's for, I did answer that, a 20-yard roll-off
And he explained to
dumpster.
tonight.
Okay.
Yeah.
And again, it might be that the one that they have can be repaired for less than $7,000,
He
but
said no.
okay.
He looked into it.
Okay, good. Because that's what was, as of a couple weeks ago, it said maybe.
Yeah, it's 30 years old.
Maybe to repair it would be less than 7,000, but a new one would be 7,000. Okay. And then the expenditures. Any questions on 8160?
He had the engineer there several times over the last few years, and there's a lot of concern about the wall there.
Right. The retaining wall.
Retaining wall, yeah. I'm wondering if we should have money in here for addressing that problem.
Well, we did discuss that with him in the beginning of the year, and he said he didn't feel it was an immediate thing, but we can discuss that with him.
And maybe it's something that an engineer could look at again and give an engineer's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Anything further on 8160? Okay, 89 is, with the old media budget, everything's zero now and moved to 1680. 9010, so 9010 is the state retirement. The actual last year was 109,177. What we budgeted for this year was 119,247. It gets paid in mid-December, that's why the year-to-date is zero.
Yes, zero, yeah.
So originally, we put in 115,000, but I was finally able to get the dollar amount. And so December 15th of this, by December 15th this year, the town of Unionville needs to pay $99,329. Again, that's based on the employees that are in the retirement system.
Right.
It's based on what tier they're in, so different tiers have different rates. It's the salaries reported. They take it as of the salary of as of March 31st. So they project out what the salary is going to be for the year, and so again, it's never going to be exactly correct because you might have someone leave and then someone else come in. If it's 109,177 last year and it's going to be 99,329 this year, there's no major changes to the salary overall for the town.
Right.
It makes sense to make it, we were discussing it earlier today, make it 100, make it 105. I think we settled on 102,000.
Okay.
3% was what, 102?
And change.
And change,
Yeah.
so we rounded it off to 102.
All right, yeah, I mean, if all the people in the retirement system get a 1% increase and nothing else changes, which won't happen that way, but if that's what it was, then you would expect it to be 1% more. The comptroller's office hasn't indicated that the rates are going to change. They usually do that a year out. So.
Right.
Okay. Any questions there? Okay. This is just a formula for Social Security and Medicare. But it's a good gauge to see where the overall personnel costs are going. So what was budgeted for this year is $63,152 for Social Security. So as of right now, what's budgeted for next year is $64,493. So that payroll is going up, some amount. And yeah, there's nothing to figure out here, it's just the formula.
Right.
Okay, 9040, workers' compensation. We were informed that the workers' compensation that the town gets through Dutchess County would go up 8%. So there's an 8% increase. 90/50 unemployment. Last year, the town's unemployment insurance costs were $4,427. This year, $1,012. There actually hasn't, I don't think there's been any unemployment costs in any recent months. This was all from earlier in the year.
Yeah.
So that's why the dollar amount of $2,000 was put in. Again, you don't really know what it's going to be. So. Now, if you don't let anybody go, it'll be 0.
Mm-hmm, right.
Oh. 90/55.
We already went over that.
Yeah, that's an old.
Yeah, that's what it used to be, where the MTA tax used to be. Okay, 90/60 is the health insurance. Some changes here based from the tentative. And a couple things going on here, so let me just explain. One is in talking with Mr. Humphrey, who presented tonight, in anticipation that the town may switch to MVP, that the increase over the current rates would be 10%. I think it was actually 6 or 7, whatever he gave in his presentation.
6. Or 6.7.
6.7% increase. So again, this might be another one of those things that the town board looks at again in November, just when we are more certain of the numbers. But also a change from the tentative budget to the preliminary budget. I had a conversation with a full-time employee who doesn't have health insurance, who may need health insurance next year. If they do need health insurance, as a full-time employee, they're entitled to health insurance. So it made sense
to put it in the
budget for it. If she doesn't,
This way, at least we have it in there.
if this employee doesn't need the health insurance, then
Transfer it.
then you don't
Money
then you don't
later.
use it money.
Right.
Also, in speaking with Mr. Humphrey, that if you went with MVP, the HRA reimbursement would be could be $2,200 instead of $2,000. Another change from the tentative budget, we figured out that with the Medicare premiums that the former elected officials, former employees who the town pays for Medicare, that they will need to pay a percentage, so that that's figured out in the new calculations in the budget. Based on the schedule that the town had adopted some years ago, is retirees would pay 50%. But the town board adopted a new
It was in the
schedule, or an
code
updated
book.
schedule.
Yeah, it was in the
Maybe
original
you can explain it better. I
Right.
think.
The comptroller actually brought it to my attention that in, I think it was 2007, 2008. it was in-
Representative from the comptroller's office.
Yes, it was in the code book, that the previous administration, years ago, put it in the code book, so retirees would have to pay 50%. When we came into office and we looked at our employee handbooks, it was on a sliding scale. So when we,
Based on the number of years of
based on the
service.
number of years of service and everything.
Yep.
So when we redid the employee handbook, we just followed that.
Past practice.
Past practice, 20%, 30%, 40%.
That's right.
Then the woman from the comptroller's office noticed that the handbook that we were going off of was put into place prior to the code book amendment that said 50%. So all of these retirees from that time on were supposed to be paying 50%. If they were eligible. So from 2017 on, when we put it in, we had it on a sliding scale, so most of them were in the 20 or
30 or 40.
Or 40, I don't think.
So based
Over 35.
on years of service,
Based on years of service.
Right. One person will have to pay 30%, another person will have to pay 20%.
Right.
Two people will have to pay 20%, another person will have to pay 40%. So 30, 20, 40, 40, 20. Yeah. Yeah. And then just employee testing. For, you know, drug screening.
Right.
Any questions on 9060?
No?
Okay. $97.10 would be the bans and bonds. So next year would be the first bond principal payment of $50,000. As it stands right now, this may change to being 1 of 5 instead of 2 of 5 for the Time Warner Park parking lot / handicap access minus the grant. Got the grant, but
yes,
nothing's nothing's happened yet. So I don't know whether we get a ban for this. It might be that by the time everything goes through, excuse me, the that expense for the ban may actually come in 2018, which would be the first of 5 years.
Okay.
And again, also based on what the project is going to cost, it might not be $20,000 a year for 5 years plus the amount for the grant.
Right.
So, so those are the principal figures there, and then here are the interest figures. So again, if this is 1 of 5, then instead of being 2,400, it probably would still be somewhere around 3,000. Again, it's an estimate because we don't know what it would actually be until we get it. And then it would be the second and third of 28 bond interest payments. The bond is for 14 years, so there's 14 bond principal payments. They change over the life of the bond. And then the interest, so the bond principal payment up top here is once a year. The interest payments are twice a year, February and August, I believe. So again, there was 1 this year, there'll be 2 next year going forward for 13. That's what we're. Any questions here? Okay. On to the defund. Okay, so this is 5110 in the defund. So in the 2017 budget, the current budget, it was broken out for a line for each of the 4 full-time employees. And then you see the year-to-dates, and then you see the department request of a 3% increase. The supervisor put in a 1% increase for 3 of the full-time employees, and then eliminated the 4th full-time position and put in 2 seasonal laborers. That would be $18 an hour, 40 hours per week for 16 weeks. That's how you get to 11,520.
When are these seasonal laborers going to be employed?
Summer.
So what happens in the wintertime then to a plow right, it's kind of eliminated?
That's in the
No,
that's in the
snow fund.
budget.
You'll have
Yeah,
another
we have a
guy
different
for snow plowing too.
budget for that.
Different seasonal.
There's its
There
own,
somewhere.
that's in its own budget.
So, yeah.
For the snow and stuff.
Okay. Anything further on the 5110.1? Okay, there's no .2.
What's the pay scale on that?
The seasonal labor? $18 an hour, 40 hours a week for 16 weeks. So $18 an hour. And then the .4, give me a second here. That's different. Oh, because there's only 3 full-time employees instead of 4, the uniforms can go down.
Yeah,
That's
but you're
the,
still gonna have two
that's the change.
part-time season, also you need more uniforms.
Shirts, they get, I don't think they get complete uniforms.
Oh, they don't get
either.
complete, okay, makes sense.
But we will have to buy more
Shirts.
T-shirts, the orange or green or whatever they wear.
There's $800 for clothing.
Right.
Okay.
Anything further on 5110.4? All right, 5112 is permanent improvements. So last year, the expenses were $166,000. What's budgeted is $263,825. That's $150,000 contractual, and then $113,825. That's the CHIPS number that you spend $113,825, you can get reimbursed up to that amount. And year to date, as of the end of September, this budget has expended $10,131. So again, the department request was to keep the numbers the same, and the supervisor kept the numbers the same. And any questions? Okay, 5130 is machinery. So there's no .1 for machinery. There's a department request to replace truck number 7. Excuse me. That was not carried forward into the tentative budget. This is up to the town board to decide. And then the .4, again, the MS4 cost should be going down, not disappearing, but I think there's always that the engineer
Yeah, we
does.
spoke to George about that.
He thought it should go down to about 10.
Right.
And then the repairs year to date are 31,050. So the request was 60. The tentative budget is 55. Any questions on the 5130.2 or .4? Okay. 5142. This is the snow removal budget. So the line that is in the current budget is it's not titled this, but just to clarify what it is, it's overtime for the full-time people and for 3 temporary employees. So the actual in 2016 was $27,793. What was budgeted is $45,000 for this year. Year to date is $27,706. This would be utilized again if it snows between now and the end of the year. And so the department request was for $45,000. And so now it would be overtime for 3 full-time people and 4 temporary employees. So it'd still be $45,000 because you're not paying the overtime for the 4th full-time employee, but you're going to have the temporary employee there.
Correct.
So it's still $45,000. Any questions on that? Okay. And then for the sand and salt, I sent an email to our representative who's working with
I
FEMA
would like everyone to
on the
please
reimbursement.
stand
So,
for a moment of silence for
you
the
know,
victims in Las Vegas.
What should ultimately happen is hopefully we get that funding in this year. The budget can be amended to increase the salt and sand expenditures, and then these numbers will make more sense.
Yeah. Does it look like we're making that money this year?
And we can,
His email
Start-
back was like,
yeah,
it's the federal government. So.
right, I mean,
Okay.
Who knows?
he
Yeah.
thought
They
we
were-
were
yeah.
gonna get it, he was pretty sure.
When I went out to Poughkeepsie and asked, I said, look, it's, you know, we're looking at something in the $40,000 to $50,000 range, which is considered a small project. It's got to be like $20,000 or $30,000 to be considered a large project.
Okay.
So he said because it's considered a small project, it shouldn't.
Petty cash.
Not exactly. No, but it shouldn't be
For the
some.
feds.
It shouldn't be some kind of long drawn out. He didn't think it would be some long drawn
Okay.
out process. Now again, whether we get, and so it's 75% of. So what was submitted, again by me with the input from the highway superintendent and the head groundskeeper, and then working with the payroll clerk and all that, came to. In the neighborhood of $47,000, $47,000 plus dollars. So FEMA will pay, provided they agree with all that. And there was a lot of back and forth emails with him about, well, what about this? What about that? What about this? So FEMA, the federal government will pay 75,000 of that, 75% of that. Sorry, 75% of that. And then the state would pay 12.5%, or they could decide to pay 25%.
Oh,
So the town will,
possibly could get it all.
the town will get 87.5%. Or 100%.
Great.
Wow.
It's up to the state to decide.
So we're getting
Do they put in
87.5.
half of their what they have to, or do they put in the whole amount?
Okay.
So the town could be getting 47,000. The town could be getting something a little, you know,
43.
42, 41,000. Yeah, 40, some 40,
Yeah.
low 40,000.
Okay.
So again, that would go to bolster up this account, bolster up the .1,
Right.
bolster up the rec. You know, the parks rather.
Yeah, because part of it goes back to this,
Yeah.
and part of it goes back to the recreation.
Yes. So the request by the request by the department was that 95,000 should become 125, that 15,000 should become 25. When you look at how it breaks out in you know, if you're using this much salt, you're using this much sand. Obviously, there's different types of storms. You might use a different mix. If it's icy, you can use more salt or all salt.
Right.
So, but kind of following this, you know, if the salt is this, the sand is this, or if the sand is this, then the salt is that. So then the tentative budget was 115 and 15. Again, it's up to the town board to decide. Anything further on 5142? Okay, 9030 D. The D's there just because Excel can't have two things named the same. You can see that the Social Security, Medicare, from the amended budget that we're operating on now drops because there's 3 full-time people instead of 4 full-time people. So the Social Security and Medicare expenses would decline. 9040D, there's an 8% increase here. It does also, from Dutchess County's perspective, it still anticipates that there will be 4 full-time employees. You know, if the town board agrees that there should be 3 full-time employees and another 10 employee, I can go back to, I forgot his name, from Workers' Comp for Dutchess County and say, well, should it be something less now because the makeup of the staff is expected to be different?
Yeah.
So just to keep it simple, and the difference between what it is and what it would be is $420. Just leave it as it is right now.
Yeah.
9050 is unemployment for the highway. There was 0 spent in 2016. There's 0 spent so far for 2017. But lowering that from 2,000 to 1,000, given historically $0 is spent. Again, the health insurance for the D fund. Again, speaking with Mr. Humphrey, looking at a 10% increase on 3 employees would give you this dollar amount. The HRA being 2,200 instead of 2,000 will give you this dollar amount, and then just employee testing. Any questions? Okay. And then 9710, this was put in the last budget meeting of mid-November of last year about the request for a pickup truck with utility body. So this is the 1/5 the cost. that, it would be, and then what might be the interest on that? I haven't heard anything. I think the town board would have to, would,
Yeah,
if you heard anything, you'd
yeah.
vote on the lease. Okay. And then, that's it for the D fund. The Burbank Meadows Drainage District. Again, the idea is not to spend $2,600 every year, but spend $13,000 every 5 years, or $26,000 every
right.
10 years, or something. So, and there would be a separate public hearing for this in 3 weeks. And then 3410 is the fire district, which the town has no control over, so that's why I also put in the dollar amount for the adopted budget, because
Okay.
that's what it is. Okay, so that's all the expenditures. The revenues. The only change here from the tentative budget, just in speaking with the recycling administrator, and as the numbers are coming in, I'm agreeing with them that it was a little ambitious. I think we thought more people were going to sign up. There had been talk of another transfer station that a municipality runs nearby closing down, so maybe people from that would come, and they would need memberships, they would buy trash tickets. So just looking at how the numbers are coming in, it makes sense that this number should be lower from what is in the tentative budget. And again, we can look at it again in November and say, well, based on October's revenue, the revenue that keeps coming in, maybe it should be maybe even lower. Got to see. But,
We actually sold one today.
Really?
Good. This late?
so again, just running through these. The interest and penalties on taxes, that's in fully for the year. The sales tax, there'll be another $50-something thousand check that we'll get from the county for that. The franchise fees, there should be another $15,000 check. This is near the beginning, just for everybody. This is near the beginning. This might be like the
Are we gonna get copies of these?
8th page in.
It's in your book.
It's in the book.
Where?
I don't know, page,
Towards the
I
front.
don't know.
Towards the front.
About 6, page 6 or 20?
No. This,
Oh, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
And I have no
this might be like
idea.
8 or 9 pages in.
About an eighth of
from
an
the,
inch
from the
paper ahead
front.
of it. It's all in there.
The revenue summary
9,
page.
10. 10 pages in. It's on page 11. Literally numbering of pages. Go to page 25. I don't know.
It says expenditure.
No, it says non-property
So
tax revenue summary.
There's the,
Expenditure.
Next page, after expenditures.
there's kind of the short budget in the beginning where it just
Yep.
lists
Yeah, line by line.
Big summary.
the aggregate of all the
Yeah.
expenditures.
You got it, I think, right there.
Okay. So, again, interest and penalties, like I said, sales tax, there should be another 50-something thousand. So that increasing makes sense. The franchise fee should be about 15,000, so that going up $1,000 makes sense. The town clerk fees seem to be coming in as they have before. Maybe after another month, this could be looked at again. Maybe it needs to go down slightly, back to what it is, 2,500. That could be
She's
looked at
still
again.
selling hunting licenses.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't.
The downside to that is
revenue
the
from
town
that, but-
barely keeps,
Yeah.
town clerk, right, the town barely keeps any of that.
Oh, for
Well, it goes,
Money.
yeah,
Um,
it goes on.
Yeah. So from what is currently budgeted, remember this is the column of what is currently the budget to what the department proposed. The department, we're a little more conservative about what the camps should be and after school and different programs. So so again, for some of these, the specifics is on the next page. Just breaking it down by the different types of camps.
Yes.
And all that. So just, again, looking at the revenue summary, so you got camps, after school and TGTT program, equestrian fees, facility rentals, other rec fees, concessions, pool fees, the auditorium fees is part of the facility rentals fee. Special events, zoning fees, planning escrow, like I said, the recycling center, Come on, thing. I think the, sorry. The idea there was that we thought a year ago that essentially more memberships would be sold, more traffic tickets would be sold. So this brings the revenue more in line with what it was back in 2016. Interest just from having money sitting in the savings account. Property rentals for the 2 houses that the town rents. My understanding is that the town is going to continue to rent those 2 houses through next year, but that might need to change after next year,
Yeah.
based on what the comptroller's
Yes.
telling us. Dog licenses, that might need to be looked at again, unless there's a lot of dog licenses that come in at the end of the year. The building fees, again, last year was 85,000. Up to the end of September, it's up to 62. I just deposited in the last week 10 or 11,000 something dollars for the building department. So it most likely will be around 85 or maybe higher. So again, the building inspector felt comfortable with the 80,000 number. The court fines are already higher than they were last year. I just think there's more tickets.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'll have to check. I think the insurance recovery, that's mainly mainly from the remediation.
Yeah.
So I have to just check one thing there. The unclassified revenue, normally you wouldn't budget classified revenue. We didn't. This was part of the budget amendment from the recent town board meeting. The state aid came in the last month, so that's there. There should be a mortgage tax check coming in the neighborhood of about $60,000. So we're going to go over the $100,000 budgeted. Last year was 105. This year it'll be like around 110. So budgeting 105 for next year. And that's it for the A fund revenues. The D fund revenues, the transportation services, that's where the town plows the county roads. Last year was 3,200, this year was 8,500. I think some of the revenue this year might have been actually from work done last year.
Right.
But
I didn't think he was gonna do that this year.
Renew the contract?
Renew.
I don't think he is either.
Okay, so that
Yeah.
don't need to get changed then.
Circle that and look.
I don't think he wanted to do it with the county this
The
year.
town board can make that zero now if you'd like.
They wanted him to sign up to that seasonal type thing, right? Is that how,
yeah,
have they
remember we
implemented
went-
that yet?
I don't think they've implemented it, but I thought Richie said he didn't want
Yeah,
to be involved with it
I didn't think it made sense for us either.
because it was a totally different thing this
Right.
year, and it really,
It put us at a big risk.
yeah.
Be out.
So I think
You could
that's,
put the 3,000 in we're gonna get for the fire district though,
Oh, good point.
right?
but that's not going to highway, that's going to go to park.
It's gonna go to both,
I
isn't it?
thought it's,
Well-
I thought it depends on who.
It depends.
I wouldn't really know how to budget. I mean, not that I wouldn't know how to, I haven't thought of how to budget that yet, just because
Right, because we don't
We
know
haven't
where
approved
that
it
will
yet,
go.
but,
Part of it'll go to the park and part of it'll go to the highway,
my understanding is if it's the middle of the night, the highway department would be plowing.
just
Yeah,
And then
cleaning it up a little bit.
when the rec comes in,
They
when they
really-
normally work, or
They were
maybe they come in a
gonna
little
do-
early for park
yeah,
stuff,
they would do the finishing
they
and
would finish it up.
And clean it up and
Yeah.
probably spend more time there.
I'd say give it half and half and it's just an estimate.
Yeah.
Okay.
So change that 4,000 to
Or-
1,500.
Yeah, that's my advice.
All right, and, I don't know where to put the 1,500. I don't know if there is a transportation services
Right,
revenue for the A fund.
under,
Probably isn't.
It could just be, other rec fees, it could be unclassified, just for now, I guess it could be unclassified revenue.
Yeah.
I think you need to differentiate it between recreation and maintenance.
Sure. So just for now, it could be just we actually budget 1,500 for unclassified revenue.
Yeah.
For highway.
Well, 15.
Oh, for
the rec.
unclassified, yes.
Right.
Yeah. In the A fund. I'd have to look in the book to see if there is a fund 2300.
Yeah, wherever you think.
For park.
Well, just for in general,
Yeah,
you know,
for
I mean,
Right.
I guess
Okay.
the town could run a taxi cab company and there'd be transportation. I don't know. You look it up.
Have our own.
Not that I'm suggesting that, but. Okay, and so then this would be the rest of the revenues then for the D fund, 1,500,
Right.
500 interest, CHIPS money. Yeah. So, okay, so then, just running through the expenditures quickly, I'm not going to actually say any of this, so just want to make sure there's, if there was something in the tentative line, there should be something in the preliminary line here. Unless we totally eliminated it. Okay, looks like everything's covered. And then defund. Okay. Okay, so then the last bit of this would be the preliminary budget summary page. What was in the tentative budget was to utilize $55,000 of fund balance for the A fund and $13,200 for the D fund. The $13,200 for the D fund, that came about with the addition of that truck at the last meeting last year, and that it doesn't change the budget if you put in $13,200 in fund balance to offset the $13,200 cost for the 1/5 of the truck. The general fund A fund, and I got some documentation to hand out regarding this. The 55,000, because it was kind of going back and forth. Well, should it be 50? Should it be 60? Let's make it 55. So if you just take, I'll just hand it out, it'd be easier. This is from the AUD. These are the A and the D fund fund balances. So as of 20, you want to look at the number at the bottom right. It says 2016. So the first page is the A fund. And then the second page is the D fund. So as of the, let me get back in front of the mic. So as of the end of, you two the same page?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
I'm
you did.
confused.
Sorry.
Because they're not different. Are yours different?
Okay.
Yeah.
They're both the
Let's do
same.
this.
Mine are the
You guys
same.
are,
Really, he's trying to mix you up at the 28 hour.
Which one's the D?
Mine are the same too. We're just trying to make these.
Yeah.
Jamie time. Oh.
Playing
The
with
same thing back.
wait, one should say 1.1 million in the bottom right corner, the other should say 145,000.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I
I
got.
have
to
two
say
1.1 million.
All right.
Thank
I need
you.
145.
You got a tray with your neighbor here.
That's a, that was a trick.
Thought I clicked sort on the copy.
That's okay.
It's all right, Ryan.
It was a good test to see if we're still awake. We're still
Or if
awake.
we're paying
It's 10:20.
attention.
We're still
Yeah.
awake.
All right. So, the one in the bottom right corner says 1.132 million. That's the fund balance for the A fund as the end of 2016. So that's the fund balance as of the beginning of this year. Okay. And then for the D fund, 145,841. Again, the same thing. So The rationale for using some fund balance is to offset the taxes is because if we don't, my thinking is that the fund balance will just continue to increase. And that's based on, we'll do this a little more simply this time. You should take one of these and pass it down.
And if we screw up, it's on us.
Thank you.
And then take one of these and pass the rest down.
This is where a tree's going.
Yeah.
This is,
Yep.
this is the budget.
The two trees.
So the packet you're getting in front of you now, you'll see that it says January through September 2017,
Yep,
and then it says October through December of 2016.
yep, oh.
Okay. Take those back. I'll give you the second one.
Okay.
Okay. So
This first one?
the January through September of 2017 is what we've actually paid out and brought in 2017. So the top half of the first page is the revenues, so 4.69 million in revenue. And then you see at the bottom of the second page, 3.8 million in expenses. Okay, and so then the difference there is a net income of 850,000. And so when you go to the second packet, it's the last 3 months of last year. Much of the revenues are going to be somewhat the same. Much of the expenditures are going to be somewhat the same. So for instance, at the top of the October through December one, you see sales tax from the county, 53,000. We're going to, like I said, we're going to get a check for 50-something thousand from the county for sales tax. You know, there's going to be different revenues that come in. That they'll be different from, you know, what it was last year. But this just give you a sense of what we might be looking at for the last 3 months of this year in terms of revenue. And then the expenditures for the last 3 months of 2016 are the rest of the first page and all of the second page. And so you see that, you know, in the last 3 months of the year, we're going to spend more money than we're bringing in those last 3 months.
Right.
And so then if you look at the two net incomes, we're up essentially $850,000 right now, and we're likely going to spend around $700,000 more than we bring in over the next 3 months.
Great.
So that means that the town should have more money
The last.
than last.
Yeah.
So again, you know, it's, you know, again, like for instance, you know, I don't know what roads are being paved right now. So I haven't seen a bill for that, so I don't know what might come, you know, in later this month or November or December to be paved. Same with, you know, any kind of revenue. Like the revenue might be a little lower, a little higher. So, you know, so you just try and make, you know, an educated estimate on these. But with the fund balance at the beginning of this year being 1.1 plus million for the A fund, and the idea that it might in fact go up, utilizing 55,000 is, I think, makes sense. And then again, same for the D fund. It started off this year at 145,841. Again, not knowing what all the expenditures will be, $13,200 makes sense.
Okay.
So, and so what that does to the preliminary budget is, you see about a 5.5% decrease in the mill rate. So another tax decrease. Sometimes people ask the question, well, what if you didn't use any of the fund balance? Well, then you'd be holding on to more of the taxpayer money and there would still be a tax decrease. But you'd be holding on to more of the taxpayer dollars.
Holding their money ransom.
Okay. Is there any other questions on the budget?
Not tonight.
Okay. So I'm going to save this document. And then you have a resolution
Yes.
Yeah.
to vote on, and then
Yeah.
after you vote on that resolution, this will be the preliminary budget, and then we'll go from there.
Preliminary budget still subject to change, correct?
Right, oh yeah.
Correct.
So again, the next 3 weeks, everybody can look at the preliminary
Just wanted to
budget.
verify
We'll
that.
get more information and
Again, based on, or
More bills that come in, more,
or the public might feel very strongly for something or against something at the public hearing. That's
Yeah.
why the purpose of the public hearing.
Right.
But now they have now they have a document that the town board has agreed on. This is what we think should happen. Now, what do
Yeah.
you think should happen? And then again, the town board on the 9th can look to change things. The town board on the 16th can look to change
Right.
things. But before the end of the night on the 16th, the town board has to vote on that being the adopted budget.
okay.
Correct.
At the beginning of the meeting, I handed out what I use as a worksheet where I work. On the actual computer worksheet, it goes back to 2013. It got clipped because of the paper size here. I would like to see us move to this format. It's a whole lot easier to follow and understand. Because each item, you have it going back, well, that's 4 or 5 years, so you can get a better idea of the trend. And it actually breaks it down. Each department each line gets broken down into sublines, so you can track your spending better too.
Actually, Steve, like I said before,
5 year.
with the 5-year plan that the controller suggests, you do go back 5 years.
This is for
and then you
budgeting purposes.
Well, this is for budgeting purposes too. You go back 5 years that you have your trends, and then you can trend out for another 5 years. And it still gives you what you're spending now.
My point is, I would like to use a format that's easier to understand than what we had before us tonight.
We can look at that for next year. I mean, I think at this point.
That's why I
we
introduced
need
it
to
tonight.
Yeah, we need to use what we had.
okay, do you want to move to resolutions?
We're doing the
We gotta do the
discussion.
PTO.
Discussion.
Oh,
Do we need
paid
to-
part-time?
I know. Do
Can I
we
say-
just
can
need
I,
to
make a
table it?
motion? We
It's
table that
just-
till the next
it's
meeting?
It's just too late.
Yeah, because this may
I'll
run
second
late,
that
this meeting,
motion.
if we don't.
Table. Next.
I don't know why they leave.
Well, yeah, gee, I don't know
All right,
why.
Karina, I'm gonna have you read the first one, being you
Yes.
changed the numbers.
Yes, so, whereas the tentative budget has been filed with the town clerk of the town of Unionville, and whereas pursuant to section 108 of town law, a public hearing must be held by the town board upon said preliminary budget on or before the Thursday immediately following the general election. Now therefore be it resolved that the tentative budget as amended be adopted as the preliminary budget for 2018 by the town board of the town of Unionville, and be it further resolved that the preliminary budget sets the following salaries for 2018 for the following town officials. Town supervisor, newly amended, is now $20,060. Town councilman 4, each newly amended is $5,760. Town clerk, $44,270, town highway superintendent, $58,060, town justices, $10,288. Be it further resolved that the town board of the town of Unionville has scheduled a public hearing upon said preliminary budget at Unionville Town Hall at 249 Duncan Road, LaGrangeville, New York, on November 9th, 2017 at 7 p.m., or as soon thereafter as public comment can be heard. Be it further resolved that the town clerk is hereby directed to have copies of the preliminary budget available in her office for public distribution and review by the public. Do we also need to add to advertise it?
It's
Like, or it's just part of
required,
it?
Standard procedure. I'll second that resolution.
Town board discussion? Roll call vote?
Councilman Welsh?
Aye.
Councilwoman Kelly?
Yes.
Supervisor Tompkins?
Aye.
Councilman McMorris?
Aye.
Councilman Frazier?
Aye.
Okay.
Okay, resolution to authorize payments. Be it resolved that the town board of the town of Unionville hereby authorizes the payment of all general fund claims and highway fund vouchers as set forth in the abstract number 10 of 2017, which is available in the town clerk's office, and authorize the town supervisor to make all payments.
I'll second that.
Town board discussion? Roll call vote?
Councilman Welsh?
Aye.
Councilwoman Kelly?
Yes.
Supervisor Tompkins? Councilman McMorris?
Aye.
Councilman Frazier?
Aye.
Okay. Yeah, well, I have it all in.
That one.
Okay. Resolution scheduling public hearing for the Burbank Meadows Drainage District. Be it resolved that the town board of the town of Unionville hereby schedules a public hearing to solicit public comment on the tentative special assessment roll for parcels within the town of Unionville within the Burbank Meadows Drainage District. Said hearing will be concluded before the town of Unionville Town Board on November 9th, 2017 at Unionville Town Hall, 249 Duncan Road, LaGrangeville, New York, 12524. I think it's 12540. 12540.
Wow, Tess
We
being
just
this
went to
tired.
we just moved to Fishkill.
Yeah.
At 7 p.m. or as soon thereafter as public comment can be heard. Be it further resolved that the tentative special assessment roll has been prepared by the town assessor and is available for inspection at his office and the office of the town clerk between the hours of 9:30 a.m. and 4 p.m. during their regular business hours.
I'll second it.
Town board discussion? Roll call vote?
Councilman Welsh?
Aye.
Councilwoman Kelly?
Yes.
Supervisor Tompkins?
Aye.
Councilman McMorris?
Aye.
Councilman Frazier?
Aye.
Dave?
Okay, resolution appointing ethics board members. Whereas the town of Unionville currently has vacancies in the Unionville Ethics Board, and whereas the town board has conducted interviews of interested individuals who wish to serve on the town of Unionville Ethics Board, and whereas pursuant to section 26.7 of the Town Code Ethics Board, the board shall consist of 5 members who shall be residents of the town of Unionville with at least 1 member, but not more than 2 of the members being elected officers of the town. And whereas the members of the Ethics Board shall serve the following terms: 1 member for 1 year, 2 members for 2 years, and 2 members for 3 years. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the town board of the town of Unionville hereby appoints the following members of the town of Unionville Ethics Board: Brian Johnston to a term ending 12/31/18, William Sadler to a term ending 12/31/19, Dawn Tree to a term ending 12/31/19, Dennis Spinney to a term ending 12/31/20. And be it further resolved that the following are appointed alternate members of the town of Unionville Ethics Board: Peter Bonk for a term ending 12/31/20, Marnie Bask for a term ending on 12/31/20.
I'd like to add Karina as our town board member.
And it would have to end 12/19.
So 12/31/19. So I'll make a motion to add that. Amend that. I'll second.
I don't know if I can second it. It's
All right.
I'll second it if you need a second.
Yeah. All in favor?
Discussion?
Wait.
Well,
Oh,
on the motion
wait.
to add Karina to
Yeah,
the
the amended
resolution, the
motion.
amended.
I disagree with that. Based on
Do you want to do a
the,
roll call vote?
based on being removed from the library steering committee based on unethical conduct.
Which was never investigated nor proven. It was stated by one person, and the entire library steering committee was not polled as was said would be done by the town board.
Just putting my objection on record.
Do you want to do it as a roll call vote for the amendment?
Yep, roll call vote for the amendment.
Councilman Welsh?
For the amendment, I'll vote yes.
Councilwoman Kelly?
Aye. Vote yes.
Tompkins?
Aye.
Councilman McMorris?
Aye.
Councilman Frazier?
Nay.
Okay, and
So now I'll second the whole thing.
The revised resolution.
Yeah.
Amendment.
a town board discussion.
I just want to sort of shed a little light on what the ethics board is, and we had that email that you read at the beginning, and while it may not be kind to not go back and say you're sorry to somebody, the question of whether it's ethical or not, it's not actually an ethical question. It's just a question of manners and kindness and what somebody chooses to do. So examples of ethics for municipalities, which will be decided by our ethics board, would be conflict of interest, appearance of impropriety, recusal or not recusing yourself, town property and resources, nepotism, the receiving of gifts, as the law outlines, private employment outside of the town, representation, confidential information, subordinates, judicial standards for incompatible positions. So those are examples of what municipal ethics is here to decide. Like, I'm sure there'll always be people in town that do not agree with one another or do not say they're sorry to one another. Unfortunately, I really felt like our demonstration tonight sort of solidified that for our highway supervisor, as they are not on good terms, as was indicated, since this man is still very angry and called the police on him. So that is what ethics actually is.
Roll call vote, Andrea?
Well, I didn't realize we were done with the discussion. I have something to say here as well. I don't feel that there should be two members of the same family on the ethics board.
One is an alternate.
There's two members of the same family that will be on the ethics board, and I disagree with that.
And they won't be serving at the same time.
You don't know that.
And why, when
make sure of that.
why when we set the board 2 weeks ago, did you not
I did.
verbalize this then? Okay.
I had suggested an alternate member.
Okay.
Roll call vote, Andrea?
Councilman Welsh?
Nay.
Councilwoman Kelly?
Yes.
Supervisor Tompkins?
Aye.
Councilman McMorris?
Aye.
Councilman Frazier?
Nay.
Okay, Dave, you read that one?
Yes.
Steve?
It's the segregated bank account one?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Whereas the town of Unionville has been awarded a New York State and Municipal Facilities Program, SAM, grant in the amount of $50,000 for replacement of the parking lot and sidewalk at Town Hall, and whereas a requirement of the grant award is documentation evidencing that a segregated account has been established by the town into which the grant funds will be deposited. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the town of Unionville hereby authorizes the creation of a segregated bank account for the placement of the SAM grant funds at the Bank of Millbrook.
I'll second. Town board discussion? Roll call vote?
Councilman Welsh?
Aye.
Councilman Kelly?
Yes.
Supervisor Tompkins?
Aye.
Councilman McMorris?
Aye.
Councilman Frazier?
Aye.
John?
Okay.
This is your favorite one,
I
John?
know.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, thanks. Okay, resolution approving fire company snow plowing agreement with Town of Unionville. Whereas the Unionville Fire District Board of Fire Commissioners desires to enter into an agreement with the Town of Unionville for the snow plowing for the fire district's fire stations for the coming winter, and whereas the Town of Unionville Highway Department or Parks Department will provide snow plowing to keep the aprons and parking lots reasonably clear of snow at the 2 fire district stations. And whereas the Board of Fire Commissioners will pay the town of Unionville the sum of $3,000 for the 2017/18 winter season. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the town of Unionville hereby authorizes the town supervisor to enter into and execute an agreement for snow plowing with the Unionville Fire District for the 2017/18 winter season. And be it further resolved that a copy of the fully executed agreement shall be kept on file in the office of the town clerk.
I'll second that.
Town board discussion? I know I spoke to, I think it was Dan Richards, and we discussed that if it really, really was a harsh winter, that we could renegotiate that 3,000, God forbid.
Okay.
So, Jake and will keep track of what they do.
Okay.
And see how much it is. But I think he agreed to that.
Okay. Well, they're, you know, they want to cooperate with us, and obviously we're
Right.
cooperating with them, so
Yes.
I think that's a good,
Negotiating point.
I mean, yeah, God forbid it snows.
yeah, we're not enemies, we're all working together for the
Right.
same people, so.
Right. Okay. Roll call vote, Andrea?
Councilman Welsh?
Aye.
Councilwoman Kelly?
Yes.
Supervisor Tompkins?
Aye.
Councilman McMorris?
Aye.
Councilman Frazier?
Aye.
Okay, that concludes our resolutions. Public comments on non-agenda items. Yeah, you can.
Okay, sure. Wait, you're gonna go to the microphone, but Alfreda's gonna go first.
Tillman Chauncey Road. Given all the signage, political signage that's out there, I think the town board should sincerely talk about getting rid of, rescinding that signage law that was passed many years ago. It's just not enforceable. People are not holding to the spirit behind this rule. One, that's number one. Number two, at the last town board meeting, Steve, you said something about Steve working, Jesus, Jenny, Richie Wissman working a 40-hour week.
I didn't say that.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
No, I said outside his regular hours.
40-hour.
I don't recall saying 40
Okay, well, we can play
specifically.
that. We can play it, but I'm not going to do it now. Patty is supervisor, Lizette is supervisor, all the other supervisors were on call 24/7. Highway superintendents in the past, 24/7. I remember running with the ambulance, and Pete would come out weird times to make sure that the roads were clear, that they were sanded, salted, whatever, so we could get through with the ambulance. I'm sure they did the same with the fire truck. I didn't run with that. I don't think highway works just a 40-hour week.
I never said it was.
Yes, you did.
I didn't. I said what he does outside of his regular work week is
His
not our concern.
40-hour week.
Ma'am, you're
It's
gonna
on
have
the
to,
tape.
you're gonna have to look at the tape.
We will.
Hallett said that.
Excuse me?
Daniel Hallett said 40 hours.
We're not having discussion
Oh, yeah,
back
no,
and
okay,
forth.
I'm just
Alfreda's
saying.
up.
I can attest that I've seen the highway superintendent out in the middle of the night plowing roads. And I never stated that this was a 40-hour job. The regular hours are, yeah, but outside of that, no.
I'll run it. I'll find it. But anyway,
Okay.
that's
Thank
it. I'm sure there's more, because I've been holding a lot in for a long time. But I think we should all go home and go to bed by ourselves, not as a group.
Well, thank you for that.
You get funnier as it gets later.
Yeah. I'm in the sauce now. Thank you.
Yes.
You can,
Next.
you can come. Yeah.
It's too late.
It's too late. Alfreda,
Hi,
it's fine.
Ilana Nilsson, I'm on Canby Road. And first, it was a great budget. It was very comprehensive, I thought, and I've sat for a few of them, so thank you. I think I understood most of it. One of the things I didn't understand was right in the beginning, I don't know if this counts as a non-agenda item, but you had just mentioned a budget surplus in the beginning of the meeting. Did I mishear something?
Our fund balance?
Yes.
Yeah, we have almost $1 million fund balance.
That's incredible. Has the town ever had that before?
The town has always had that, but they
Okay.
continued to tax and increase the tax, and the levy continued to go up without looking at the fund balance. So each year, they put away more money into the fund balance. There is a cap, by the way, which is
Okay.
part of why we have to use some of that fund balance, or we have to give refunds or something. We can't keep all that money.
Right.
We can't hold people's money ransom.
state.
It needed to be considered. Ryan may be able to shed more light on it.
No, that's okay. I just,
Explain a little bit of that.
oh, okay.
Just to correct something, so it hasn't always been like $1 million. If you look at the sheet
No,
that
no.
you have there, as of the beginning of 2015, it was something around like 600 something thousand. And it'll fluctuate over the years, so, you know, and towns, you know, make different decisions. Unlike a school district, the town doesn't have a legal cap. School districts do have a legal cap that they have to keep it under. The state comptroller's office does have a problem with any town that has less than a, say, 10% fund balance. You know, and they'll kind of write you up in an audit if you have too much of a fund balance. But there's no actual, like, this is the magic percentage. But, you know, you look at some other towns, like I know, like the town of Beekman, they feel like they've really run out of the fund balance. So they're raising taxes as part of trying to fix that. But, yeah, just one question.
Thank you. I had a few other questions. The Verbank Meadows Drainage District, where is that? Is that
It's
a
off
proposed-
Tompkins Road.
Off Tompkins, is that a new development, or?
It's a new development,
Okay.
and it's a separate tax district for those residents, so if there's any need for the town highway guys to do extra work there, the people that benefit by it pay for it. So it's not spread over the whole town tax base.
So where would we read up more on that before that November 9th meeting?
I don't think anywhere, it's pretty
Oh, okay.
straightforward.
All
It
right.
could cost up to $13,000 to renovate the thing, and $2,600 is collected every year, so over 5 years, it comes up to the $13,000. There's gonna be another one up on the top of Buzzkill Road here, when the town takes over that area, because there's gonna be a special tax district there for the drainage. This is part of the MS4 program.
I remember that from a few
And
years
yeah,
ago.
you can actually contact George in the
Yeah.
building inspector's
Okay.
office, and he can explain to you everything you need to know about it.
Okay, thank you. And two other questions. Cablevision or Optimum, how often is that contract reviewed or renewed?
14 years.
No, I think it's 10.
10? Okay.
I think it's 10
So how many
years.
more years of this cycle do we have to go? Because I'm personally not very pleased with them.
Probably 5 or 6. It's.
Actually, I
All
think
right.
it's only about 3 more years.
3?
3 more?
I think it's about 3
Time
years.
flies, John.
Alfred, you worked on it last time.
Yes, I did. and I think
Can you
we're-
remember?
No, I'm
You and
feeble,
Teresa.
but I think it's pretty close to time.
Okay, it goes so fast, but it's not very often.
Time flies, if there's
Yeah.
not that much competition. Lastly, I'm on the ZBA, and I just wanted to mention that we have sought and received advice of council on streamlining the procedures, because we feel that it could be streamlined, so.
And you know what, I think that you should try and contact your liaison and maybe meet with that person and go over it and.
I think
write
it's still
something.
at council, and it's really more of, you know, Jane knows much more about that than I do. But I think that's a great idea. Okay, thank you very much. Good night.
You have a good night. Okay, our next town board meeting is November 9th at 7, right here, same place.
Yep, that will include our 2 public hearings.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Oh.
Were you gonna say anything?
What's that? You gotta speak up.
Stand up when everybody's done.
Well, yeah, the handicap thing. I really don't like to say this, but I'm more than a little disappointed in the way the town government in Unionville has been mismanaging their job for 2 years. As a few examples, monthly correspondence is not listed on the agenda nor mentioned at a meeting. It's interesting for the residents to find out at least who has sent letters to the town. when the special project accounts were taken out of Hudson Valley Federal Credit, I hope they were kept separate when they were put in the Bank of Millbrook, because I was supervisor when these accounts were set up, and they were set up because our fund balance was too high. We thought it was too high. So we legally got together with our attorney and we set up, I don't remember all of them, but I know there was one for the park, one for the dam, one for highway. There were 4 or 5 accounts set up as special accounts, special separate accounts. And they have been kept separate all these years. And also you guys have been going back and forth about paying for this truck. The truck that was billed out in 2006 was ordered in 2015, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. It was budgeted in the 2016 budget as a lease purchase. I called the lease people and gave them a tentative cost so I would have something to put in the budget. There was no bond. There was a truck years and years ago that was bonded out. The bond was added to the recycling center updue bond. But that was the only bond that we got for a truck. That truck was supposed to be lease purchase, and you guys can pick up a phone, you speak English. And at the last meeting I attended, the supervisor said that a person asking for information under FOIL was witch hunting. The fact that someone asks for specific town information available legally to them under law is not witch hunting.
So Lisette, I do have one question in what you said. So you're saying our former town attorney knowingly told you to put money into a credit union?
No, no.
You had stated that you worked with the attorney in creating these different funds.
We had no indication that he didn't tell us where to put it. He helped us set the accounts up.
So you put it in the credit union of your own accord?
We called around, well, when we had money to invest, we called around to see where the interest was best.
Right, but the reason...
he never told us that we shouldn't put it in a credit union.
The reason the law doesn't allow a municipality to use a credit union is, yes, I guess maybe you get higher interest somewhere else, but credit unions don't have the same insurance, and so the town money. Okay, but the way you stated it, you kind of put the attorney in there and setting up the account. So I wanted to be clear if your attorney had knowledge that you were putting it into a credit union.
Can I make a motion to adjourn?
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.